Conservation Commission at 7 p.m. Normally we have approval of the minutes for the previous meeting, however, they are unavailable for approval this evening, and they will be up for approval at our September meeting. We have a continued hearing on Strawberry Fields. That's a notice of intent at 766 Somerset Avenue. Does anyone from the Strawberry Fields wish to make a statement? And then we're going to have Marty Nova speaking on the issue.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi there. Christopher Agostino, I'm here for Strawberry Fields, and I should be accompanied by Fisher Hashem, Brad Holmes, Matt Watsky, Ed Jacobs. Are they in the room yet?
Yes.
That's affirmative.
Okay, great. Excellent. Everyone's here. Thank you very much for allowing me to appear via Zoom. I had hoped to be there in person with you, but despite the best efforts of Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, I'm nursing a case of COVID, so I'm glad I was able to appear via Zoom to at least make some introductory statements, and then I'll turn it over to the development team. Mr. Chairman, if you recall, this application for a notice of intent was originally filed about a year ago in August of 2020. And since then, it has undergone numerous peer reviews and discussions, including a work session where the parties got together to try to see if they could narrow the issues of disagreement. And at this point, we have yet to actually give a full substantive presentation that would allow an open discussion about the real engineering concerns and the real Wetland Protection Act concerns that affect this project site. And in doing so, we really would like to hear from the commission members whether or not there's anything that the commission members would like to see in order for this application to gain its approval. We've certainly heard from the commission's peer review team, and they have consistently indicated in general terms that the applicant has not met its burden. Well, we believe that as of this point tonight, we have more than met our burden, that we satisfy all the performance standards under the Wetlands Protection Act. And we'd like to have a sincere discussion about why that's the case and give a presentation so that if the board wants to retain local control and propose things that will, in the board's mind, address their concerns about the specifics of this project site, maybe we can have that discussion this evening. But if the discussion is that the board is looking for, or what we discern is the peer reviewers' request that they're looking for either a no-build scenario or a scenario where we're required to completely redesign our development, then that's not a result that we're willing to accept. But we are, and we've always been, willing to hear real concerns. But in digging into the details of the peer review report, and I hope everyone has had an opportunity to do it, at this point, we're at the point where we believe we've met our burden, and we feel as though the concerns are not necessarily intended to create a better project. Rather, the concerns we're hearing are intended to deter or delay the project. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Attorney Watsky, who is the wetland specialist attorney with our development team. And he's going to introduce Ed Jacobs of Driscoll Engineering and Brad Holmes, who is our professional wetland scientist, who are here tonight to give a presentation on the details of the development, and then hopefully we'll have a good discussion and hear the board's real concerns and whether or not there's anything we can do to satisfy those concerns. So with that, I'll turn it over to Attorney Watsky.
Okay, Lisa first.
I just need to recuse myself from this hearing so I can be here, but I'm present, but I'm not participating in any way.
Okay, Commissioner?
Yeah, Mr. Attorney Watsky is running 5 minutes late, he's on his way, but if you don't mind, we'll have the engineering team go over the whole overview of the project. Is that all right?
Well, I don't know what you're going to see out of all of that.
What do you want this to face, the crowd?
Well,
What's to the board?
probably to us would be best, our angle somehow.
Put it like this. What if I go over here? That way Chris can stay as well. No problem.
First, my name is Josh White from Jacobs System Engineering. And who do I get to do cards to? Should I stand over here or should I stand at the microphone? So everybody can.
Could you speak to the microphone? I'm having difficulty hearing you. That's okay.
I don't know if that might broadcast to the audience or if it just goes directly to cable.
Okay.
Just to cable.
All right.
So if you speak loudly enough, please.
I'll do my best. All right. So again, Josh White from Jacobs Driscoll Engineering. I'm here with Ed Jacobs from Jacobs Driscoll Engineering, and this is our proposed project off of Somerset Ave. The locus property is 766 Somerset Ave, and it contains this proposed project. It contains about just shy of 35 acres of developable land, and this project will take up about 27% of that site, which will leave about 72% as undisturbed land towards the back of the site. We've got 2 proposed access roads off of Somerset Ave. And there are 3 types of housing proposed for this development. First is single-family homes. Second is townhouse units towards the center of the property. And then cottages to the south end of the project. The project is split into 2 separate phases. Phase 1 essentially contains everything to the east of the electric easement that runs through the property. And then phase 2 is everything to the west of the electric easement. As the attorney mentioned, sheet 5. As the attorney mentioned, we've worked with the review engineers and the Concom in numerous working sessions, email conversations, site visits between Jacobs Driscoll Engineering, Beta, Concom, and Brad Holmes of ECR. Yeah, we're on sheet 5. So as a result of those working sessions and discussions with the town and Concom, we've come up with our design that we are very comfortable with as it is laid out right now. A couple of things that we've been working on through those working sessions were modifications to the proposed drainage system, including above-ground drainage, below-ground drainage, pipe sizing calculations, outlet control, sizing calculations, numerous calculations like that. We've also worked with the Concom and Beta on enhancing and increasing the natural buffer off of the BVW to the south end of the project and in the project overall. Yeah, so this is our one of the grading and utility plans that shows both entrances to the site, one to the north and one to the south. Yeah, sheet 11. So when you drive in, you've got when you drive in from the entrance road to the north, you've got single-family homes around that loop. And then if you drive in from the south entrance, you've got the entrance in and then cottage units to the south. And then eventually you'll get to the townhouse section in the center right there. You can see numerous drainage basins to the north of both roadways, as well as one to the south of the southern entrance. In the townhouse below that parking lot, there's a proposed infiltration basin chamber system that we've added to take one of the runoff from the northernmost townhouse unit, and that is directed right into there. As shown in the drainage calculations that we submitted, the latest version, that system is sized to hold a 100-year storm. And as part of the finalizing for this design, we implemented this system to address one of the comments about that that the project would be detrimental to the certified vernal pools, which are located on the property. I know Brad will most likely touch on this in a little bit, but I just wanted to basically explain this part while we're here. So there's 5 certified vernal pools located on this property, and we split it up, delineated all the areas to calculate before the project started and after, and we did the analysis for this water budget based on the 1-year storm, which would be the most conservative design, as it would account for the least amount of runoff in the lowest storm. Yep. So there's certified vernal pool 100, 200, 400, and 500, which I believe are all outlined on the plans in blue. So we delineated the areas going to both of those, and basically, our conclusion was that implementing this proposed infiltration system under the parking lot and the amount of runoff that's being directed towards this ultimate design point, which is the southernmost wetland, the largest wetland on the site. Basically, what it came down to was that we had to check to make sure that the vernal pools would not dry up. And through our calculations, which we've provided,
I'm sorry, could you speak up a little bit, please? I'm
Yep.
sorry, I apologize.
Yep. No problem.
I can speak slower. I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right, so basically in summary, this water budget analysis, we calculated the existing peak rates and runoff of water for the one-year storm going to each of those vernal pools, which we have contours delineating those areas, so we were able to calculate basically a peak flow and the peak volume going to each of them, as well as the peak elevation contained in each one of those. And through our analysis, we were able to confirm that the volume would in fact increase, which basically comes down to meaning that the vernal pools are not going to be affected by this project. Yeah, so this is the southern end of the project, which is where the cottage units are proposed. And the BVW, the longest one on this project, which is about 4,000 linear feet for this whole project, which is on the left side of the plan. Basically, we had to, when we worked with the Concom and Beta in that working session, they recommended we do what we can to increase the buffer off of the BVW, which is the green line on the plan. So we pushed the grading back to the right as much as we could. Like I've mentioned before, we increased the perimeter erosion control to include basically a double barrier. So one's essentially on the wetland line, a couple feet off, and then there's another barrier about 10 feet or so separate from that, and then all the work upland from that. Another thing so in addition to the erosion control modifications, we also tweaked with the grading on the backs of all these cottages to make sure that the roof runoff, which was pointed out as a comment throughout this project. So we have addressed that by including the roof drains into the street drainage system, which goes out to one of the several drainage basins on this property. So all of those cottage units their roofs are being piped into the drainage system, so that the runoff, whether it's clean or not, based on how you read the stormwater management, it's treated by the pipes. Yep. So the runoff from those roofs and the cottage units, it's treated into the when it's piped into the drainage basin, into the sediment forebay, and then eventually out. So the water coming from those roofs is clean. So we have taken care of that comment. That comment came numerous times for different areas of the project. So we've addressed that as well for all the units, townhouses, single-family homes that are within the 100-foot buffer zone. Anything that is outside the buffer zone, which is basically everything on the northern side of the property, give or take. Those are out of the
Are
jurisdiction.
we looking at this at the north point, it's off to the left slightly?
Yep,
The north
you
point,
go
I can
back.
see from the key on the left. There it is, yes.
Yep.
On the right.
This would be the northern
On
portion.
the last picture was to the left, the key. Okay, where's your house? Off north, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, so all of those single-family homes to the north are outside of the 100-foot buffer zone jurisdiction of Concom. I don't want to go through all of these comments because I mean you can read it. We've addressed all of the comments to the best of our ability, but just a couple other ones that I wanted to highlight. There was a question about the flared ends, which is the ultimate outlets of the drainage basins and some of the piping networks. Those have been placed outside of the 100-foot buffer zone from the vernal pool, any certified vernal pool. And all of the riprap aprons on the end of the pipes have been sized to withstand any of the 100-year storm. So there will be no erosion or sedimentation at the end of those pipes before they eventually hit the wetlands. Like I mentioned, the roof runoff was a repeat comment from Beta on this project, and like I mentioned, we've done the best to pipe all of the roofs we can into the drainage system, so they are all being treated. Yeah. That take care of a majority of the comments. Most of these latest comments from Beta were all drainage related. A couple of them reference finished garage floor elevations, top of foundation, stuff like that. We made sure to address those in these latest plans as well, just so they were all making sure everything was addressed. And so that's our drainage design. We've included detail sheets in the back of the plan set that detail all the different structures, erosion control, retaining walls, all of that's been addressed on all the plans in this latest revision. And I think with that, I'd like to turn it over to Brad or whoever else wants to speak next.
Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR, professional wetland scientist and Massachusetts certified arborist. Happy to assist on this project. Ed, would you help me with the plans, just because you know the plans sheets, so I don't have to fumble through? If you had a chance to look at our response memo, we were able to work with Beta and address their comments. One of the comments that the commission would probably be interested in looking at is the wetland replication plan, if that's handy enough to pull up. There is one area of the site where we have an alteration of bordering vegetated wetlands, which is the access area off of Somerset Ave. That's the only location where there's a proposed alteration of wetland resource areas. The wetland that's in that corner, there's an abutting property to the north of it. There's a small portion of the wetland, approximately 1,600 square feet, that's proposed for alteration. In order to compensate for that and comply with the performance standards for bordering vegetated wetlands, we have to have at least a we have to have at least a 1-to-1 ratio of wetland replication. So we have a 2,600 square feet, I think approximately 2,600 square feet of wetland replication proposed, as you see in the green shaded area. We're actually over a 1-to-1 ratio because some of the wetland that's proposed for alteration is only temporary. So we'll have a temporary disturbance to that portion of approximately 500 square feet, which we'll restore. So as part of our revised submittal, we put together a narrative on the restoration of that 500 square feet. So that's something that the commission hasn't seen, in the sense that we're actually reduced the amount of permanent alteration of bordering vegetative wetlands. We've kept the same square footage of wetland replication because we think you probably would like that. And then we're proposing to restore approximately 500 square feet of temporary disturbance of wetland restoration. I won't go over sheet by sheet, but I'll just kind of summarize with the commission. The site's a very large site. It's approximately, it's like 125 acres or so. And as you know, we're only occupying a small area of that site, and that's the portion of the site that's closest to the road and development. The backland, as I'll call it, which is about 70% of the site, remains in open space. We're not proposing to develop it. There's, as I said, that portion of the site is south of residential development. You have an easement running right through it, and you're also very close to the highway. There's one bordering vegetative wetland system on the site that's within the jurisdiction of the commission. It's that large wetland system that runs basically south and west of the wetland. I'm sorry, there's two wetland systems. That you also have that A series wetland that I just described with the thank you, Ed, that wetland replication. That's a bordering vegetative wetland, and the other bordering vegetative wetland that parallels the project along the south side. When you look at that project area along that about 4,000 linear foot line of bordering vegetative wetlands, and you average out the distance of undisturbed vegetative buffer to remain, it's approximately 25 feet. So we're actually close to what the commission has in their wetland regulations for an undisturbed buffer. How we came up with that is you take 4,000 linear feet of BVW and average out the distance of work, which ranges from a foot to almost 220 feet. So it's our opinion that the proposed project actually is minimizes or is less than a third of the project area of the site, and it uses the area of the site that's most suited for development and leaves the backland, which is the better habitat, undisturbed. The only really change to the wetland features was that wetland replication feature that I just described to you. There are other responses that we've addressed in the beta response, and can certainly take any questions you have to that, but there aren't any other really significant changes that I'm here to discuss as far as the wetlands end. You know, we can certainly open up any questions, but that's the change that I wanted to present to the commission, is give you that overall knowledge of the site as a whole. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks. Sure.
You were talking about 70% to be untouched. Is that for future use, or is that going to be deeded as conservation land, never to be developed?
That could be something we have to discuss. I don't have an answer on that, but it's not included in the proposal.
So what you're telling us now then is that you're going to develop 35 acres, but down the line, you may develop the other 90 acres as you see fit, so that 70% is just a come along and to be nice to us, at least in words only, temporarily.
I'm stating what the project is as a proposal.
No, that's actually, that's not the case, and I can confirm, and it's actually a condition in the comprehensive permit that we're only developing what we're showing on that plan, and the rest is to be preserved. The only exception is that we made a deal with the Dighton Water District, and we promised them that we would let them explore the possibility of putting a well in there, if they so choose. But otherwise, that's part of the goal, is preserving in perpetuity all of that land that you see there. So it's not a come along that we're gonna come back later and fill it. That's part of the benefit that this project has, in that there's now certainty in perpetuity as to what's going to happen with this project site. So that's a benefit.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brad. And, before we turn it over, I just want to reiterate, and I think Jacobs Driscoll did a good job of explaining it step by step, but their stamp is on those plans that they as engineers believe that the design complies with the DEP's stormwater management regulations. So I know that I made a point previously to take exception that engineers were unable to potentially work out any differences they may have in their interpretation of compliance. But while Jacobs Driscoll is here and presenting the plan, if the commission has any questions specifically about what are the disagreements on compliance with the stormwater management regulations, I think now would be the time to hopefully ask those questions. If there are specific questions you have about what Jacobs Driscoll did to ensure compliance with the stormwater management regulations, or specific concerns about water quality or discharge points, or specific areas that the commission is concerned about, I think that's what we're here for tonight. So to the extent that Beta gives a presentation and they say they disagree, this commission is charged as the initial arbiter of any disagreement there. So to the extent you, as the fact finder and the arbiter this evening, have questions, please present those to Jacobs Driscoll and ask them directly, as they have their stamp on this plan saying that it complies. And I think Brad followed up with that from a wetlands protection perspective and described the amount of land that's being protected. And he is a professional wetland scientist, which again is a certification from a group recognized as certifying professional wetland scientists. He has put his name on the line that it adequately protects wetlands. So, and the interests of the Wetlands Protection Act. So with that, the experts are here this evening, and certainly, we'll hopefully hear from the board's peer review experts. But to the extent there's any disagreement, we look forward to hearing from the commission and getting into the details.
Okay. All set. Marty, would you like to? This
Good
is
evening.
Marty Nova. Go ahead if you.
Thank you, Marty Nova with the Beta Group. I have Gary James, a registered professional engineer, with me tonight. We received the latest submittal from the applicant a few weeks ago, maybe 3. We were just authorized to begin our review of that submittal. We did take the opportunity to take a look at it for tonight, so we can discuss it at a high level and answer any of your questions, or maybe get into some discussion on stormwater and the performance standards. But basically, and Gary can talk about it after me, it looks like they're getting to the point where they're approaching compliance with the stormwater standards. The previous versions of the submittals needed some revisions to get there. Those plans were stamped as well, but they did not meet the standards. So I think that the applicant is working with Gary and Beta and the commission to get the stormwater management design to a point where it meets the stormwater regulations and standards. And everyone understands that a project needs to meet the regulations because there's a presumption that if it does, then it protects the wetlands. So if a project doesn't, then the commission can't approve it. So we're working towards that. Relative to the buffer zone that the applicant is providing this particular wetland, they're stating that its average is over about, approximately 25 feet across the project. I don't think I have to remind the commission how important this wetland is. It is an outstanding resource water because it is part of the public water supply protection zone. It has high value for ecological habitat. It's state mapped, ecologically important. There's a series of vernal pools within the project itself and outside the project. There's certified vernal pools, there's potential vernal pools. Matter of fact, we actually found evidence of breeding in 3 of those potential vernal pools when we were out there this spring. So the wetland on this particular site is very important. I'm not saying that other wetlands aren't important, but on this particular site, it's very important. I just want to point out, if I may, on the grading sheet, they actually have the certified vernal pools on the map, and they also actually have added a blue line around that certified vernal pool, which indicates the limit of the vernal pool habitat, which is 100 feet from a vernal pool itself within a resource area that's within jurisdiction, your jurisdiction. So you have a certified vernal pool here, and then you have a vernal pool habitat surrounding that vernal pool, and you have work right up adjacent to that vernal pool habitat. In this location here, you have very minimal undisturbed buffer zone to that vernal pool habitat and vernal pool. And I work my way down, similar down here. This is a good, now here's your vernal pool habitat limit here and your vernal pool. So you have work, and then along here you have your outstanding resource water, and then you have an undisturbed buffer here, which is approximately 25 feet. Your bylaw requires a minimum of 25 feet to protect the wetland. Your bylaw doesn't apply here. It's the Wetlands Protection Act. So the Wetlands Protection Act presumes that the wetlands on a site protect the interests of the act. The applicant has not overcome that presumption, and as I stated, the interests those wetlands are providing are critical here, especially wildlife habitat and public water supply protection. So the regulations also allowed the commission to take a look at the importance of those wetlands and then the work adjacent to that wetland and determine whether or not that work is going to have an adverse impact on the resource area's ability to protect those interests. It's our position that with the substantial amount of work in that 25-foot buffer zone, some places 2 feet away from the wetland will have an adverse impact on that wetland's ability to protect the interests, namely public water supply protection and wildlife habitat protection. We had our wildlife biologist go out to the site. He walked the entire length of the limit of work, which there was staked in the field, actually was flagged. And his opinion is that the work will adversely impact the certified vernal pool habitat. And just simply cutting down the trees adjacent to those vernal pools is going to let a lot more light in. It's going to change the water chemistry of that pool. Not to mention the stormwater management system that's proposed on this site, that Gary's going to still look at their water budget analysis to determine whether or not the management of that water from clear cutting the site and then managing it to different basins will actually affect the water budgets of those pools. So I think we're a long way away from where they're at with their opinion on whether or not this project will have an impact on the resource area's ability to protect the interests. I don't think they're willing to reduce the footprint of the project. It sounds like that based on statements here tonight. So I think that as far as moving forward, we've stated our position, they've stated theirs, and it's really up to the commission to determine, what their position is. Going back to the hearing officer's decision on the previous project here, it was very clear in his decision that the applicant did not address the indirect impacts from working adjacent to these wetlands, meaning clear cutting, letting light in, changing of water chemistry and things like that. So, and that was one of his bases for denying the project and having it remanded back to the town, was the fact that the applicant the burden was on them to prove to you that that work would not have an impact on that wetland, and they didn't overcome that. And it's the same situation here today. So, I think that's, there's other things to discuss, but I think that those are the big issues. Maybe I can let Gary talk about the previous plan set and the deficiencies in the plan set to meet the performance stormwater standards. And maybe he can talk about how this set maybe gets to closer to meeting those standards. So, thank you.
Glasses on. Good evening. My name is Gary James. I'm an engineer with the Beta Group. And I'm here to discuss, obviously, what's the issue associated with the stormwater drainage improvements that is being proposed in conjunction with this development. In the prior review, we had several issues that I believe were tantamount to the commission that we really had some questions about what to do. Number one, this was a cross culvert, and in conjunction with the storage associated with that basin, they were actually going to store water on the abutting lot. So that was one of the comments that we made, and I can see that they have made some changes, but obviously it still has to be reviewed to make sure that in fact that there is no standing water on the abutting lot in association with this, because essentially what happens is when they build that berm, they cut off the flow of water coming off of that lot. Number two, the lower basin, right here. I believe it's 4B? Yes, 4B. In the design prior to, the storage area associated with the storm storage on that basin actually extended beyond the limits of the berm. And at that point in time, it was going to extend back up into this parcel, and it was actually going to make it up into the abutting parcel, which means it would have closed in to within 100 feet of the vernal pool, which is a violation of the standards. And in essence, they didn't own all the land that the storage was going to be, so that was one of the comments that we were going to make to the commission in association with this. Now I can see they have made some changes. Obviously, they closed off the berm, and they've added some other. You can see they've added the color going back out through. The other concern that we've really had with this, and we've been consistent in our comments relative to this, both Todd did, I did on the second one, and I did on the third one, is we've been talking about the issues associated with the vernal pools and the routing of the stormwater through these vernal pools to try and make sure that in fact that the amount of stormwater that's going through these is the same. And unfortunately what's happened is in their analysis, go back and look at this. They've always treated this wetland as one source. But yet the vernal pools are over here. And in the prior designs, most of the water was being discharged into the basins on the front side. Here. So part of the issue that Marty was talking about was the water budget analysis on the vernal pools, and that was our biggest concern. Now, there are the two basins. So this is the primary discharge from the development. And as you can see, the two vernal pools are here, upgraded. So our largest concern relative to the two vernal pools was the fact that they were getting starved for water. That a lot of the water was going to be captured by the roadway, and it was going to be diverted around them, so that they would be starved of water, and they would lose their functionability. Now, they have made some changes. I will agree. They've added the subsurface system, directly upgrading of the vernal pool, which should help. And in addressing the issue associated with Basin 4B, they've actually connected all of this runoff back in, so it'll actually discharge right in here. So it should help to be able to replenish the two vernal pools. So they are making changes to try and bring the site back into compliance with the standards. I have some other, I do have some other standards that I have some other comments that I have made relative to the standards in association with the roof runoff. I know they've been arguing with me about the issues whether or not the roof runoff is part of the water quality volume and whether or not it has to be treated. And I will respond to Mr. Driscoll on that in terms of what the interpretation that I've run into relative to the department in terms of that. Roof runoff is considered an impervious surface. All of the runoff associated with impervious surfaces must meet the standards. It is subject to the issues associated with the recharge, and it is subject to the issues associated with treatment of the water quality volume. That roof runoff is part of your water quality volume, therefore it is subject to the treatment requirements in accordance with the standards. And if Mr. Driscoll wants to, we can debate that later on, but that has been the policy that I've experienced relative to any of the dealings I've had with the department and other fellow engineers. Other than that, I do have some other specifics, but they're a little bit, they're on the technical side, and I'll leave my discussion to Mr. Driscoll at that point in time. But like I said, they are making the changes, and it does appear as if they're trying to come back to where we would like them to come relative to compliance with the standards. Thank you.
Marty and Gary, I assume that you will be needing more time to deal with this project, and things are going to evolve as time goes on, so that you'll be working together with them?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, okay, so, but before we conclude tonight's hearing on it, we have Dennis Murphy here.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
You wish to address the commission on the Strawberry Fields project for the neighborhood group.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. I did submit a letter in response to Attorney Watsky, and in brief, without getting into the legal principles, the point I wanted to make is that the DEP decision that you're all aware of from 5 years ago remains relevant. And Ms. Nover, just a few moments ago, mentioned it in connection with the issues that have come back. So in my letter, I point out the relevance. So I'm not sure that Attorney Watsky and I have a disagreement, but his letter from a week or so ago, which I just got, suggested that it's no longer binding, and that's just not true. It remains relevant for the following two reasons. Number one, if there were factual issues in dispute that were put to adjudication in that trial, it's called a hearing, but it's a trial. There were witnesses and evidence and cross-examination. I know I was there. what the judge or the hearing officer decided is established fact that we can't ignore because nobody appealed it. So once there's been a trial and a decision based on those facts are established and remain binding. The second thing is that there were certain arguments made in the prior proceeding that also are binding. This is more legal argument rather than factual. And I gave two examples in my letter very briefly. There was some contention early on that they didn't have to be set back 100 feet from their stormwater infrastructure to the certified vernal pools. That's the same exact argument that Bosworth made and the judge rejected. You don't get to make that argument again. It's already been litigated. That litigation was in a final decision. It wasn't appealed. It's binding. The second legal principle or legal point that was made is the prior applicant didn't want to delineate the stream. That issue was put to the judge. It was tried at the hearing, and it was decided against Bosworth that the hearing officer determined you do need to delineate the stream. And so at least those two issues and the facts that I cited in my letter are established, and to that extent, the decision from DEP does remain relevant. Now, the one thing that is changed, and I don't dispute this, nobody does, that the specific project that is before the commission, the number of units, the configuration of the stormwater system and the units, of course that's different. But the DEP determination is still binding. Yes, you get to do a new NOI for a different project, but you don't get to go and redo factual disputes that have been resolved or legal arguments that have been resolved. So that was the point I wanted to make, and thank you very much for letting me make it.
Okay. I assume then that the Beta Group and Strawberry Fields will continue to work to rectify any disputed areas. Yes, sir, and your...
I'm Matthew Watsky. I'm here as counsel for the applicant. I wanted to make sure that everybody who wished to speak, any of the public, had an opportunity, and your consultants before I got, because you appear ready to ask for continuance of the hearing. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
I said you appear ready to ask us to continue the hearing.
Yes.
Is that correct? All right. I'm going to address council's comments on a couple of items, and then I'll give you my response. First, I completely disagree with council's position about res judicata effect. There are many DEP cases that are very clear that under the Wetlands Protection Act, final decisions under the Wetlands Protection Act are valid for 3 years, they're binding for 3 years, and after that 3-year period ends, that there's no further binding effect. Notwithstanding that position, I took a look at the issues that he raised in his letter, and the current project complies with his objections that were raised in the Bosworth case. The work is more than 100 feet from the boundary of a vernal pool. The stream, we've investigated the site, and there is no stream that has a buffer zone that hasn't been addressed. The other items in Bosworth are not relevant to the current application. And there is nothing in DEP's regulations that would bar you from filing a new application, just as counsel has indicated in his letter. You get your decision, you evaluate the ruling in that final decision, you can revise your plan, and you can file again. And that's what we've done. So you have a complete filing that's presented to you. We were listening very carefully to the kinds of comments that Mr. James and Marty Nova made. most of Mr. James's comments were focused on the comments that he made the last time around, and he hasn't really weighed in on the current design. We believe that we've addressed all the comments and concerns that he'd expressed previously to the extent that it is possible to do so. We still disagree that roof runoff from an asphalt roof needs to be treated. Roof runoff from metal roofs needs to be treated. But regardless of that legal position, all of the roof runoff from the site is being captured, treated, and run through the stormwater management system. So even though we disagree with Mr. James's position as he interprets the regulation, we complied with his interpretation anyway. We've gone above and beyond what we feel is the standard for stormwater management. We don't have any pending requests for additional information. There's nothing there that your consultants have asked us to produce that we haven't responded to. We have, however, in both the last comment letter and in Ms. Nover's comments tonight, her very straightforward affirmative position that the project as it's designed, with the work to the extent that it's proposed within buffer zone, in her view, too close to the wetlands, and that she can't recommend on approval. So there's really nothing for us to address because we disagree with her position that that's not permissible. And we're not changing that design. So Ms. Nover's recommendation to you is a denial, apparently, because she's taking the position that we failed to comply with that regulatory standard. With that as her last comment, our position is that, consistent with 310 CMR 10.055, that public hearings may be continued without the consent of the applicant only within 21 days of the initial application. Any further continuance, and we're long past that initial 21 days, can only be made with the consent of the applicant. The applicant does not consent to a further continuance. So the applicant's position right now is that the hearing has to close. The evidentiary portion of it is over, and the commission, you can deliberate, make your decision whether you feel that this is a project that should be approved or denied. And my guess is, whichever way you rule, somebody is going to appeal. It appears that the neighborhood group still has counsel involved and would challenge it. I think as Chris Agostino advocated at the beginning of this hearing, we've tried very hard to work with your consultants to modify the plan to accommodate the concerns of the commission. There's 70% of this property that's being preserved and that would be kept as permanent conservation land, subject only to use for the water supply. The project complies with DEP standards for work within buffer zone. The project complies with stormwater management standards. The project is set back properly from vernal pool habitat. The project complies, we believe, in all respects with DEP's regulations. So we will not be agreeing to any continuance. The time has come for the commission to decide whether it wants to try and keep this project local and have local control and impose your local conditions and supervise and manage the project, or if you want to issue a denial, have the appeal taken and it'll go to DEP. So that's our position. Thank you, folks.
You had made a comment concerning a 3-year DEP regulation, and Attorney Murphy was referring to a legal decision. I'm just looking at something that I just picked up on between the two of you. No, I'm just.
I'm glad to address the question.
No, I just picked that up from, you were talking about DEP having a 3-year rule or ruling on what an item is good for, what an NOI or whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. But that was a legal decision that was made in the Bosworth case.
I'm familiar with the Bosworth case, yes.
I'm just saying there seems to be a difference there.
It seems to be what?
Well, there's a difference between a legal decision and DEP regs.
Oh, okay.
No, it's just something that I thought that seemed to be different to me.
Okay.
From what the two of you said.
If you'd like, I'd be glad to address it.
Well, no, I think, I just threw that out. Okay, Marty, do you think that there are still areas that can be worked on between you and the applicant?
Well, I think the stormwater, the current stormwater management design on this set of plans has not been reviewed by Gary yet. So we can't confirm whether it meets the stormwater standards yet. So,
Now, our bylaw states that,
Bylaw doesn't apply,
at all on this,
no. Just the Wetland Act,
just the Wetland Act,
yes.
okay.
The ZBA decision muted our bylaw.
Okay. So based on that, then, it would be closing the hearing.
Tonight, no.
Yes.
We still have issues to decide, it's a peer
Well,
review.
he's saying that they don't, that they are unwilling to continue.
Well, that's their choice.
It is our
Same
choice,
choice that
precisely.
Bosworth
So-
made, and it didn't work out for them.
We'll take our chances with a further appeal to DEP. I suppose there'll be a case decision with this name on it, but we're not agreeing to further continuance. And if the commission doesn't act within 21 days of tonight, we will appeal for lack of action.
What's that, a threat?
No, I'm just telling you, that's the way the regulations work.
All right.
Any advice?
I would advise the commission to close the hearing tonight and then hold a special meeting between now and 21 days, and at that time, we can attend that meeting and go through our comments that we've had in the record before the commission, and then assist in you making your decision at that time. There can be no other discussion just between us and the commission unless the commission has a question for the applicant's rep. You can ask them, but it would be just a discussion between the commission and the consultant. But it would have to be between now and your decision would have to be rendered in 21 days, or they could request DEP come in due to lack of action.
Okay, so if we have a meeting in, well, let's see, today's the 19th. It would have to,
19th, yes.
so we have the 26th, and then it's the holiday, right?
So you want to push this off to our next meeting?
No, we can't. We can't do it. Can we do it next week?
Sure. We could call another special hearing, special meeting.
And that would be just the internal,
It would be a public meeting, but not a hearing, and then at that time, we will discuss the order of conditions issuance.
okay. Can we do it next week?
I can make it.
No, do we have time for publishing it?
Let's see. Tell you, Susie, I can try to get it published for Monday.
Yeah, for next Thursday.
I just wanted to
wouldn't be-
remind you
that
guys
wouldn't
to
make
have the chairman away for 10 days.
That wouldn't make it. We couldn't get it advertised
Wait a minute,
in a proper amount of time.
About the first week in September,
what date is that? Because you got the holiday there.
holiday, yeah, but
Labor Day is the 6th.
Okay, so that would be so that would be around the 10th?
September, yeah.
No, it would be September
1, 2,
2nd.
3, yeah, 2nd,
September 2nd.
on the Thursday.
We can make it?
We'd have to do it September 2nd.
The meeting.
Yeah. That's 2 weeks from now, from
We
today.
can advertise it and get it done by that time, yes.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to close the hearing?
Close or anything?
No, closed.
I'll make a motion to close this hearing.
Second.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, so make sure that it gets for the second, September 2nd.
Point of order. We didn't ask for public input.
Okay,
Rescind the motion, call for public input, and then make the motion again if you're gonna close the hearing.
okay, good, when,
Make a motion to rescind the previous motion, close the hearing.
okay.
Somebody second it, call the vote, and then call for public.
Okay, is there a motion to
input.
rescind the last vote?
I'll make a motion that we rescind the last vote.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Public input. Okay, none, we will have a new
Anybody,
motion.
excuse me, is there anybody on the screen? Any on Zoom that want to speak?
Yes, not.
Do you have anything to add?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Want to have a motion to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
I second.
All in favor? Marty, that's September 2nd, we're gonna do it.
Non-profit action. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, my mother, and, had the phone.
That's my first school. I was late to that call.
That was surprising.
Only because of Nancy.
Gone now.
Only because of Nancy.
What time did you meet for? I know you're.
7.
Yes.
Yeah, on the
Jim says, okay. Nice to meet you.
Wow, that was an hour and 10 minutes.
Meeting is 9/7.
9/2 at 7 p.m. 9/2, 7 p.m. So that's Thursday, September 2nd at 7 p.m.
And we're going to advertise to have, what kind of a meeting?
It's a public meeting, it's a meeting without discussion from outside parties. You can have people come, but they just won't participate.
Okay, and so, and that's going to be to discuss the order of conditions for Strawberry Fields. To discuss the order of conditions for Strawberry Fields.
That was a surprise. That's the same way it happened the last time.
Can we take something out of order?
Sure, with the kid?
Yeah, I don't know. Or,
My printer died.
It's only gonna be a couple of minutes, right?
I don't know, but you print it.
Okay,
Yeah, you wanted to take the kids.
okay. We're looking to take an item out of order and have it moved forward before before what's on the agenda. Could I have a motion from someone to have the Eagle Scout, Jacob Botello, make his presentation now?
I make a motion for Jacob Fratello to present.
Second?
I'll second
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Jacob?
You have the floor.
Get it all set up here, give me a second. Okay. So.
Okay, Jacob. You're going to tell us all about your project down there, and you're going to tell us how excited you are to do this, and you're going to get us all excited about your project and what you're going to do.
Gotcha, all right. So my project at Broad Cove in the middle of the marsh, there's a giant rock surrounded by some trees, and I went out there, I went on top of it, and there is a beautiful view of the area. And from the normal trail, you'll never get there. The trail, if rock's here, the trail goes around it. You'll never get to the rock on the normal trail walk. And I believe that people should be able to go out there. What I want to do is to build an observation post right on top of the rock. It's about 9 feet this way, 4 feet this way. I don't remember the ways to talk about, but I want to build an observation post on there so people can come up to the rock, have a reason to, as like a landmark to promote wanting to go onto it, and get a view of the great area, see why it needs to be protected, why it should be helped and well kept. And I think it'd be a great way to show it.
You're not going to be going through water at high tide?
No.
Okay. That's that roadway, that roadway that goes in? Okay, and do you have any sketches of what you're planning to do?
Yes, I actually have the plans for it right here if you want me to.
Okay, can you show it to us, please? Okay, and this is where the,
That is exactly it. I have some pictures of the area if you want to look at them.
sure,
Down here.
table beds, okay, so this is gonna be,
Sorry.
yeah,
Antsy.
Better than the last one.
okay.
Choose the right one. Right there. It's almost completely flat. It's a perfect spot for it. Doing that.
Okay.
That's what I put on
Now,
building it.
right now, okay, this is access, there's a little, drive that goes into that?
Yes, on the through the trail, goes farthest side. If you loop around,
Okay,
there's a little way through the marsh up to it.
You know, I've never been up to the rock before, but I have been into the area, and,
You're planning to just walk out there with the material though, right?
Yes. No, we're not gonna have any carts or anything. We're just gonna hand deliver everything over.
okay,
And then from up top of the rock, see over.
okay. Yeah, that is, okay, so you're gonna build it on the rock or just to the side of it?
Right on top of it, yes. On the
Okay,
second one.
and that's going to be, like you say, an observation deck?
Yes.
Okay. So this is, okay, your Eagle Scout project and, okay.
I gave him the blueprint.
No, you don't have a picture of the deck itself?
I don't think I do. It's fine. Calm down. Yeah, I should have been here. This is you see the view of the area, which where I'm standing, where it's taken from is where it's gonna be. You
Yeah.
can look through the tree over there, they have the picture, have that view.
Okay, so you're not gonna clear any
No, nothing's in.
vegetation to do this?
No.
Yeah, no,
Not a wetland.
no, okay. So, we're gonna have a motion. Okay. Yeah, he actually did a pretty good of the drawing of it. Okay. Do we have any, you guys have any, anything, just? Okay, do we have any, audience, questions to the Eagle Scout candidate?
Yes, 10 page 670 Main Street. How are you doing, man? Very good. Pictures?
So
What are we looking at?
there's the view.
Oh, that's the best.
And right here,
Isn't it
it's a nice flat rock. and
So
I'm
what are you
looking
trying to
at
do?
Trying to put this observation post onto
Why?
there so you can get that view and see how beautiful that
Yeah,
land
but
is.
you'll have to take the trees out.
No, you won't.
Really?
No, right here, from picturing it, is where it is. You just get a great view. I don't have to take
No
out anything.
observation?
It's gonna be on
No.
top of the rock.
That's pretty nice.
No vegetation removed.
Really?
He's right on top of the rock. It's
So
perfect
is
fine where
the
it is.
trail actually allowed in this area?
The, trail, it's already access to, there's already walking access to
Is
it.
this private property or is this town property?
Conservation property.
Conservation, really? So that's another issue.
We bought up most of the land around the Broad Cove.
I understand.
And will the wood be pressure treated or not,
Very
Jacob?
good work. A lot of work there. Thank you.
Okay.
Are you building this yourself?
Yes, I'm gonna be getting scouts from my troop to help me build it. Yes.
Is the wood pressure treated or no?
That is unknown, actually. Let me see if it says or not. Yes. Okay, thank you. I venture.
We don't know if this place is available, you know what?
Any chance to use some cedar instead?
Tent.
It's fine.
Okay. Do we have anything else? Or maybe we could have a motion to, go ahead.
Make a motion to accept Jacob's project?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Jacob, you're ready to go, and when you start your stuff, let us know, and then we'll be down there to take a look at it, and,
Yeah, just shoot us an email, okay, when you start?
Gotcha, thank you.
Not just Bill, but me or Charlie, okay?
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
okay, we're gonna return back to our, agenda with the,
Thank you.
hearing on, long-built homes, notice of intent. Homes, I mean, giving Marty the opportunity. That's something we just,
Sure. You build a house we can get.
well, she's gonna write the article.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, good evening. My name is Evan Watson with W Engineering, representing the applicant, Long Built Homes. With me is Lee Castagnetti of Long Built Homes. We have before you a notice of intent application to, for the Hunter's Hill project over off of Anderson Drive.
Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead.
No problem.
Sorry.
No, that's fine, that's fine. And we submitted plans that were originally drawn by Prime Engineering and approved by this board some time ago, I believe in 2005 or so. And we were asking to essentially re-up the permit. So we were asked at that time to reevaluate the wetland resource areas. And so we hired Brian Madden of LEC to go out and redelineate the wetlands. And Lighthouse Land Surveying has gone out and located those wetland resources. So the plans that you have before you depict those new resource areas. And I just wanted to talk to them a little bit. If I could step over here, I'll speak to the board. This is the plan that we originally presented. And you can see that the proposed subdivision was designed so that we didn't have any resource area impacts. Basically comes around like this. Now, part of this project is there was originally a golf course and there was these subdivision roads. So some of this land up in here was cleared to accommodate the golf course, and all these roadways were brought to subgrade to accommodate the roads. Many of the roads were actually brought back in, so they have subbase. This road was not, it was dug down, and then this area was disturbed. So what ended up happening is we ended up with a wetland that came through this flat zone on top of the hill and broke out through this road here, and also we have a little isolated land on these two corners here. So this is just the overall sheet. So this is a sheet at 100 scale, it's a little closer. And so you can see that this wetland in the undisturbed area closely matches what was previously approved. This wetland on this side, it's the H line. It almost identically follows what was the YY line. I think it just kind of pushes down the slope a little bit in this area. And then this wetland in here is the E line. Now we didn't delineate this side. This is, because it was cleared in the past, it regrew with some very thick, tight vegetation about this tall and about this far apart. So we delineated the areas that were going to be our area of interest where we were going to be proposing these work.
What's it back there? Sweet cracker bush?
Yes, yeah, this is a lot.
Around Lake Greenbrier.
Well, I was about to mention with Greenbrier wrapped around each individual branch. So, and that's why we had this delineated through at the beginning of the summer. It took them a while to make it through, and then the survey takes even longer because they actually have to see through. So.
I'm sorry, you said Lighthouse did the survey?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool, thanks.
So these other wetland resource areas, again, this closely matches what was previously approved through here, as does the B and A lines. The only real new thing that we're looking at now is this E-D wetland through here, and isolated wetlands I and F. So what we're looking to do, I know Brandon Faniff was asked to review the delineation. I believe he met with Brian on site and asked him to add a few areas here, modify a few areas. And this plan reflects those discussions between Brandon and our consultant, Brian. What we intend to do, well, tonight what we'd ask you to do, I believe Brandon, well, he's here, so if he has a report, he can comment on the plan. But I believe that this plan is a good delineation of what's there now and something that we can use to move forward with. Now this, in my opinion, doesn't require a major redesign of the entire project. Normally, on a project of this scale, we would obviously delineate the wetlands and then come back and design a system around it. Here, we actually have infrastructure in all these roads. We have our water and sewer line comes through here. Our electric
all comes through these roads, so we wouldn't propose changing any of those. What will likely end up happening is these 18 lots are what been impacted. So the other component of this is it's under review by Niche Engineering. They're taking a look at the stormwater. And so we're gonna take all of our inputs here. We're gonna take the wetland review. We're gonna take the concerns from the stormwater consultant, and we'll address those concerns with anything that we need to. And again, it should be minor if we need to modify any of the detention basins here. But the real impact here is there's 18 lots that can't be constructed. So we would be taking those off of the approval. We would be asking not to have those lots approved to have anything done on them. So for this filing, we have that reduced. And it's lot 16.
How many lots are affected?
18.
18.
I brought there's an 11 by 17 that shows that.
We'll wait till we see that close.
Well, at least it kind of gives you the picture.
Can I have one, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Some of these lots, it looks like the buffer zone interrupts, but would probably still be usable.
Yep, so these lots on this cul-de-sac, what ends up happening is the access gets cut off. So without this road, we can't access some of these lots. So, and we technically could probably put a small little spur road there, but at that point, it's not worth building that length of road to get that one lot. So we just are gonna end up giving up that little spur road.
Okay, so that's.
I have a question. Did LEC write a report for this? I'd like to see one.
I don't think I got a report, no, unless.
I see directly, I don't remember that.
And I know your drainage stormwater report last time was based on the old, so you're gonna be updating that.
So, that's correct. It will need to be updated slightly. The overall topography of the site's not changed. The locations of our discharges aren't changing. So what I was hoping to do is get some input from Niche Engineering on the concept of what we're looking to do.
Yeah.
Look at the BMPs that we're proposing and look at our methodology for our analysis and see if they have any issue with that.
Yeah.
And then I would take that input and just revise it once, because based off of these wetlands, I do have to modify this basin slightly. But I don't want to do that and then send it back to them and they say, well, you should have done it like this. So I would like input from them before I revise the plans.
Okay, because they're also looking for something from you, right? They haven't looked at anything yet.
Yeah, so there was, Charlie did send me a
Okay.
correspondence that there was, they wanted the funding, the account to be funded. Lee actually brought that check, but he left it.
Meant to. I left my file behind, so are you open, is the offices open tomorrow, or?
No.
No.
And you wouldn't be giving it to me anyway. You'd be
Okay.
giving it to the treasurer's office.
Okay. But the town hall
I'm
is,
actually out next week.
town hall is closed tomorrow?
Yeah.
So Monday is fine, I'll deliver it Monday morning to the treasurer.
Also, you have a Dropbox if you go and buy.
Okay, I'll come by Monday morning and
Yeah,
give,
no,
yeah, but yeah, okay, thank you.
But we want to leave it at that one, not this one, at the other one.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. I just want to add one comment, Lee Castagnetti with Long-Built Homes. These lots that are the dark shaded, other than this one because it's not contiguous with that wetland, these lots will be dedicated to this. We're gonna change the plan to make them open space. So they'll be part of that, they're contiguous with that open space parcel, so they'll become part of that. And they'll actually, because they actually front on the roads, we're gonna create a trail system through there for the community as well. So it'll serve a very meaningful purpose internally for the community, as well as enlarging the open space.
Yeah, there's over
So
200 acres.
you'll show us where the trails are gonna be,
Sure.
so they don't go
No,
through the swamp.
they're correct, yeah.
Take all the fun out of it.
Okay, so, what you're gonna do is get everything together. You will, as all this information comes in, you'll be reassembling it and giving us, probably, a new map on what your redesign is with these lots taken out and your trailways and, okay, all right, so, that'll be forthcoming. Okay, Brandon?
Brandon Faniff, Ecosystem Solutions, Warwick, Rhode Island. I'm your peer reviewer for this one, for the more biological end of it anyway. My part in this review so far is basically been, is revolved around the wetland boundaries. You know, they originally came in with the wetland boundary from, what, 2000, the original wetland boundary from the aughts, right?
2004.
2004, and as Attorney Watsky was saying, the permits are only valid for 3 years. I wouldn't necessarily say that adjudicatory hearings are only valid for 3 years, but permits are only good for 3 years. And so the wetland line needed to be looked at again, and so I did. It took a good portion of this line is just thick jungle. You know, it had been clear cut and it's growing back, and it's as thick as you can imagine, as greenbrier. It took me 2 days to do the field review. I can only imagine how long it took to actually flag it. But I did. I met out in the field with Brian Madden of LEC. He was the team leader on the wetland delineation. I could probably take this off while I'm talking, right? And you know, after I took a look at it initially, and he and I both agreed that he missed a spot. And could you point to it?
There's these spots,
Yeah. So they're isolated wetlands. There are a number of isolated wetlands here, and one of my recommendations in my reports was that there should be a survey and engineering study to make sure that they don't qualify as isolated land subject to flooding. Just by looking them, I do not believe that they're going to hold water for 2 contiguous months in the spring, so I highly doubt that they're going to qualify as vernal pools. But whenever I see an isolated wetland, I always say that it's, unless it's the size of, you know, your desk there, I always recommend that the exercise be done to make sure they're not an ILSF, because isolated wetlands are jurisdictional under the Dighton bylaw, of course, but not under the State Wetlands Protection Act, unless they're isolated land subject to flooding and hold a 1/4 foot of water, right? Okay, so I got this revised plan from Evan in the last week or so.
It was last week,
Yeah, it was last week. So I believe that what he's showing so far here on this plan, the wetlands are accurately depicted and numbered and all that stuff. There was one spot with the E-series wetland that there was a gap. Yeah, right there, and then going to the right, right? Is that one the one that goes up?
So it was this gap.
This gap right there,
So
right?
there was no flags actually put on this side because we weren't proposing any work here.
Right.
We did delineate this side, and then as it approached the property line, the surveyor said, "Oh, I have 10 more flags to locate. It'll take about 7.5 more hours."
Yeah.
So,
It's really thick.
So I said, "Well, we're already made the decision to really not get in there." So I said, "Well, the 10 flags aren't necessary. Yeah, we can just connect the line like this. That we'd like to see."
Right, and did you say, Evan, that you're gonna be having trails in the open space area between the road and that E-Series? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, so we'll evaluate that. Again, the open space has very minimal access points to it before.
Right.
So now if we give up this area in here, it'll likely be something that might come up through here, so.
Right,
If
so,
you do have any trail that goes through this way, we'll make sure we take care of that. But we could also come in through this way also, away from the resource areas.
right, all I'm saying is if you're gonna come in on the right side there in that square, then you should probably get the wetland line, continue it up to the D-Series, so we know where the wetlands and the buffer zones are.
Sorry, what series?
It's the E-Series gonna dovetail into the D-Series up top?
E and B?
D as in dog, delta.
D.
Right, so it would be, get more specific, flag D15 to flag E1, so E1 to D15, if they're gonna do trails on that side, they should probably connect those two with a fresh line. That way you'll know where your jurisdiction lies. The other thing to note is that we are at least partially within an outstanding resource water for the Somerset Reservoir, so this property is partially within the watershed. So, that's something I'm gonna leave mostly to niche engineering with the stormwater review being at least partially within an ORW, how exactly it's gonna work out with the stormwater review. I'll leave to the engineers, but I wanted to point that out so you know that it's present. Okay? And I think that's about it on my end. Okay, thank you.
That sounds correct. I'll say resource water is with this fund discharges too. So again, we're having that info reviewed, so that's perfectly fine. Nothing Brandon was saying really contradicts anything that's shown in our plans, so.
Okay.
So essentially tonight, we were hoping that you guys would be in agreement with the line here, that we weren't gonna need any additional review for these flags that are shown on this plan, so that way we can move ahead to the next step with any of the design that we're working on.
I would recommend that the D and E series be looked at as Brandon just suggested, the connection there.
Okay, so that's, okay. That's those.
That's the east
Yeah,
line.
okay, all right, yes, okay. But other than that, he's all set.
As far as the wetland line, so we're kind of working backwards here.
Okay, so
Typically you have a project put in front of you and it's an ANRAD and you've already agreed to
Right.
the line, so.
Okay, so you will complete that wetland line?
Yeah, if we're proposing
Okay.
any work on that side, sure, we'll take a look
Okay,
at that.
And it seems like we're all set with the other lines that are there.
And then we do want them to do, to verify whether they hold the quarter acre.
So I'd had a question on that too, because as Brandon indicated, all isolated wetlands are jurisdictional under the bylaw, so that's why I didn't do it. Usually I would go through that exercise if I was trying to prove that the commission didn't have jurisdiction to that area, and then I can ignore the wetland and we can fill it in and move on. But here, regardless of if it was an ILSF or not, the commission would have jurisdiction over those. So that's why I didn't go through that exercise. I could certainly do that. It's not going to have any effect at the end, but
I think it does for stormwater though, right?
Only if you're discharging to.
ORW, yeah.
Well, no, you can actually discharge to an ILSF for stormwater.
that's right. You can use an ILSF as a discharge point or actually as a stormwater BMP. Yeah.
I just wanted to So when I say do the ILSF exercise, because an ILSF is jurisdictional under, the Wetlands Protection Act and 310 CMR 10, right? So you could say, yeah, well, it's already an isolated wetland and we have control over it under the bylaw, but jurisdiction under the state level has never been determined. So if there's ever an appeal or something goes wrong, DEP is going to ask the same question. Well, do we even have jurisdiction over this? Right? Because we might. And if you don't do that exercise, you won't know, and you should, because it's the commission's responsibility as the, what do they call you guys, the local, the local approving authority for Mass DEP. So it's an exercise I always recommend. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll do that. We can provide that. That's not an
Okay,
issue.
very good. Okay.
But it's not going to change the limits of that resource area at the end of the day. So, but we can do that exercise. That's not a
Okay,
problem.
very good. We all set here? You have any questions? Charlie, any questions? Audience, any questions? Okay, is there a motion to continue the hearing till our September, what is our date? What? September 16?
Mr. Chairman, could I also, I'm sorry.
Is there a second? All in favor?
I was going to ask if you could also accept this plan into the file. I don't know if you need to make a motion for that as well.
Oh,
Well, we just closed.
we shouldn't do it, we shouldn't make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, an order isn't gonna be written for the wetland line alone, right?
Right.
So, I think it's fine to just keep on moving on with this as your baseline for the wetlands. I have no problem, but as far as issuing a vote on it, I don't know even know if that's necessary. I can just say that I'm comfortable with it as your peer reviewer.
Yeah.
And I think that they can feel confident moving forward with this particular base plan.
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Forest Hills?
Thank you, enjoy your car.
Want to go for a ride?
Take it for a drive.
Okay, Forest Hill has asked for a continuance.
I make a motion to continue Forest Hills to September 16th.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, continued.
I have a question. For the 16th, what do you think we'll be looking at? I mean, is that gonna be, because the stormwater still needs to be reviewed and everything, so.
That's right. So I'm hoping that in short order we'd have at least, and again, I'll talk to Steve tomorrow
Okay.
and ask him what kind of output we're looking for, because obviously I don't need every calculation reviewed to the nth degree. I'd like him to look at our holistic approach so that I can revise the plans with what they have in mind, that they're gonna have comments on. So,
Yeah.
Well, if you're not there, you just give a call and we'll continue it.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, because meetings are filling up quickly, that's what I'm getting at. And if we could spare it, everyone's time. I know you enjoy coming.
Nice.
I'd rather do the opposite. I'd rather press the engineer and get something meaningful by that meeting so we can,
Okay.
Thank you.
Clearway Solar.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Dave Cowan with Clearway Energy. We're here to request approval of our amendment to the order of conditions, the existing order of conditions for the project. The order was issued in February of 2018 to Forefront. Since then, the project was acquired by Clearway from Forefront. And in addition, Clearway was informed about a year ago by the town that a stormwater permit would be required under the new stormwater program. So there's been some changes to the project as a result of Clearway's progress on design. as well as from, through the stormwater process and one or two requests from other town input. So what we thought we'd do is go through the changes that are within the jurisdiction of the commission. And I think actually we've given this presentation before a couple of months ago, but this is the formal version of it. So it may sound familiar to what we did previously. We've got also, in addition to myself, I've got Tim Sullivan from TRC, and they're the permitting consultant on the project, and Chris Ryan from Meridian Associates, and they're the civil engineer and stormwater engineer. Briefly, and we can go into more detail as you'd like, but briefly, there are three changes that relate to the commission's jurisdiction. The first change is, and I should say all these changes result in a reduction in impacts to jurisdictional resources. So we're requesting an amendment to reduce impacts, just to be clear on that. Okay, so we feel caught up on plans. I know there's been shuffling while I've been talking, so we're set. All right, so the first change is in the originally approved plan set, there was an overhead line that was going to take power from the northern array.
This is the original front set.
Yeah.
And this is the current set that's in front of us. So
Okay, yeah, they do that. All right, so what we've got over here, we're showing the originally approved set, and then Tim will point out the northern interconnection right here, and that was going through some bordering vegetated wetland. You won't find that in your plan set, sorry.
I might have a copy if you want to see it, but he's presenting the old plan that was already approved.
Yeah, so that's on the old plan. So just to show you where it was, it's not on the plan set anymore. So that was probably the single largest wetland-related impact that the project had in its former version. So we've eliminated that. We're taking the power and routing it to the south array, and then taking it out the overhead line that serves the south array. So we consolidated the power from the two arrays and taking them out one line. All right, so it's a pretty substantial reduction in impact to bordering vegetated wetland and the associated state and local buffers. That's the big one right there. Then, secondly, there's a section of fence line on the eastern side of the northern array, over here where Tim is pointing out. And I think what you could say, the best way to describe it is we've basically straightened it out a bit. Okay, made it straighter. It was kind of stepwise formerly.
What page is that, that one?
this is the sheet C400.
Yeah.
It had like a stepped, and now here, so it's pulled it, in general, it's pulled it slightly further away from the resource area.
It didn't fall, I don't think it fell in the resource area previously. Did it? Did it fall in the buffer zone?
It was in the buffer zone.
Okay, yeah, so it's just sort of scooched it away a little bit.
Right. So by scooching it and straightening it, we've reduced some of the buffer zone impact there. And then thirdly, there is a section in the southern array, southeastern corner, where a small area of panels has been taken out of the buffer. So the fence line is still pretty much the same, right? It's just that some of the panels in that area have been taken out. So as a result, again, there's been a slight reduction in the panel footprint within the buffer there, state and local buffers.
This goes right through the wetlands. So where's replication? Where's that buffer? Is that buffer?
only a buffer zone project.
It is now, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
All right, so those are the, I would say, the substantive changes that relate to the jurisdiction of the commission. We did get a fair amount of input during the stormwater process, so there have been stormwater accoutrements, I guess, added, and they include some detention basins in the north array. We made a change, I think, independent of that, to move the fence line slightly in the southwest. Again, it's not in a buffer, it's all in upland. As a result of a change in fire code, the width of the road in the upland portions of the project has been increased from 16 feet to 20 feet. Again, all in upland, outside jurisdiction. But that's the nature of the other sorts of changes that have occurred on the project in the interim.
Well, a portion of the cart path access way is within our regulated area, because we do have a buffer zone of a 25-foot no touch and a 50-foot no build.
Here's our alternate that we kicked off.
That being said, you guys have, changed the crushed stone size based on the DPW recommended?
Yeah, there's only here, there's an existing low point in the existing path. So we had specified a larger stone because for this small piece of resource area here, in the 100-year storm, there is some stormwater that drains this way over the existing path, but only in the larger storms. We analyzed it per the stormwater board request. Generally the drainage pattern is this way, but in the larger storm, it does move some water this way. So in an effort to prevent any kind of a future washout of the gravel driveway in the area, we worked with, I forget.
Mr. Ferry.
Yes, to specify a larger stone in that area. It's still drivable, but the stone's big enough so that it won't get washed away.
And that's what, a 3-inch now?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'll have to check the detail, but it's instead of the regular gravel that's sort of 1.5 to 2 inch, this is a larger. It's like a 4-inch. They call it a 4-inch minus, I believe. So it's just the stones are about like that big, angular stones. But that's the only piece of the driveway where we changed the stone. That anything that falls in your jurisdiction. The width of the drive was previously approved at 16, and it's going to remain at 16 within the buffer zones.
And they made some changes based on my recommendations for critter crossings. So the BMPs, the erosion controls along the limited disturbance, they're gonna put it.
Right, during the construction phase, erosion controls, there's going to be sort of gaps that will allow small critters to crawl up and across the road at night, like they generally do. But also they're designed to prevent any sediment from still getting into where the resource areas are. Basically just taking two, like a funnel with a gap, and then you have another piece here so that something can walk up and out. And the water, any runoff being directed that way will still get trapped before it reaches the resource area.
I think there's a detail on 80.
There is a detail.
Not on the board, but it should be in your plan set.
One of the final detail sheets that has the critter crossing erosion controls.
Is that right? 802?
What number? 802.
8.02. Is it? No, I think it might be 8.01. Try 8.01. Sorry. Right here. So you get the filter sock comes up like this.
Yeah.
And then we have silt fence here, so something can crawl up and out, but it won't allow any sediment to get down.
Protects the end of the top end.
Yeah.
lot more to improve this
That's why the arrows
project.
are
Okay, so now is this up for approval tonight? So,
We'll ask for public input, but yeah,
yeah,
they've substantially redesigned things.
so it's all set to go then?
And they had signs. And all three of them were different.
different
They're still
design.
waiting on us
Yeah,
to
I believe that.
He's got hours and
Yeah.
planning.
Okay, so we can issue an order of conditions, close the hearing, okay.
Yeah, sorry. So I think that wraps our presentation unless there's any questions on any details.
I don't have any. Anybody in the audience have a question?
This isn't a question, it's really to bring you up to speed. They met with us, the Stormwater Committee, yesterday, and we're having a special meeting September 1st, so we can act on their stormwater permit, because we wanted to know what was going to happen with the Concom tonight. So I have a draft of the proposed stormwater permit, so I wanted you to be aware of what the Stormwater Committee is looking at, in case there's anything that you want to question or that might affect action that you're going to take tonight, okay? First condition, Conservation Commission order of conditions will be recorded prior to pre-construction meeting and proof of recording submitted to the Stormwater Committee. 2, provide stormwater pollution prevention plan, also known as a SWIP, prior to pre-construction meeting. 3, pre-construction meeting with the engineer, site contractor, and Dayton stormwater and conservation agents prior to tree cutting and excavation. 4, install and maintain soil siltation control, including maintenance of access road onto William Street. The access road is what we're calling, what was referred to as before, the driveway. This is when you turn off of William Street into the parking lot at Arujo's, you drive between the two parking lots. So that's what we're calling this now, because we want it, when we say the access road, that's what we're talking about, is the old farm road, okay? 5, utilize dust control measures on the access road as needed, minimum of daily application. 6, stormwater agents shall witness test pits at the locations of the drainage basins for soil classification and water table prior to construction of basins. If water table is within 2 feet of the bottom of any basin, a redesign or groundwater mounding calculations will be necessary. Any redesign or calculations must be submitted prior to installation of any solar array infrastructure. 7, the drainage basins shall be roughed in and erosion control installed prior to the installation of panel infrastructure. 8, stormwater maintenance. Submittal of an operation and management plan, O&M, for the entire drainage system. Submittal of a long-term pollution prevention plan, LTPPP, for the entire drainage system. Annual reports forwarded to the town stormwater committee as part of the O&M and LTPPP. 9, establish and maintain a stormwater maintenance bond in the amount of $10,000 for yearly maintenance of the access road and drainage basins, if not satisfactorily completed by the owner, must be established and submitted prior to grid connection. There are going to be 2 permits on these projects because there are 2 property owners. There will be $10,000 bonds on each individual permit. The reason there are 2 permits, there are 2 landowners, and obviously if there were problems, for example, if they didn't pay their real estate taxes, if you don't keep them separate, you can't take action against one of the owners because the other one didn't pay, so forth, so on. So although this looks like one big solar farm, the town of Dayton, just as it did on the corner of Tremont and Middle Street, Stormwater Committee will be issuing separate permits. There will be separate building permits and also separate pilot agreements. So that's the reason. But that $10,000 is per solar farm. So it's a total of $20,000 that will be required as a bond. And as long as they maintain the basins, we won't need to call it. If they aren't maintained, we will call it, and then we will ask them to replenish it. Because if we call it, it means our highway department's got to clean it, or we've got a contract for somebody. So that's the reason we do that. Number 10, drainage and access road as-built plans must be submitted and approved prior to final electrical sign-off and the issuance of certificate of completion by the building department. 11, in accordance with the letter/report from Chief Robert McDonald dated July 24th, 2021, to ensure public safety, police details will be determined with the police chief or his representative and the project manager. The details will be scheduled at a minimum of 4 hours. If the chief visits the site and determines a detail is necessary for public safety, work will stop immediately until the detail arrives. 12, fuel storage tanks are allowed by proper permits. We don't normally get involved with public safety issues, but nobody actually looked at the fact that this access road with this heavy equipment and trucks and you name it is going to be passing through an area where you've got all sorts of pedestrian traffic. So that's why we get the police chief involved, and that's why we have specifically put it in the permit, because it'll be part of the enforcement that there will be police patrols as needed, not patrols, excuse me, details. Police on site for the safety of not only entering and exiting traffic, but also the foot traffic. They've also made modifications to the plan, because when we discussed, those of you who are familiar with the shop part of Erosion's, when you come out, if you come out that door and make a sharp left, there's a short distance and there's the drive between the parking lots. So they are going to put in some safety measures there. For example, a sand-filled barrier, like a Jersey barrier, so that it's something that will call the attention to the public that, just like I'm used to just walking out the door and going to my car. Well, if I'm parked in that north parking lot, that thing is going to remind me, look both ways, because that's not something you would normally do as a customer. So anyhow, those are the things that the Stormwater Committee, when you ask what the Stormwater Committee does, these are the kind of things that will be enforced. This is not unique to this project. The stormwater permit, actually, this is the inspection part of it. So every time there's an inspection, it will be noted. These are the conditions. So I just wanted you to know that Stormwater Committee is pretty much set, depending upon what you decide. And if you have any changes or other things that you want made, they're going to meet with us on the 1st of September, and we'll be aware of what you decide, and then we should be able to move forward with it. Okay?
Thanks, Nancy.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay,
Well, we're
thank
all
you.
set with Nancy. Okay.
I have one question. I just want to make sure I'm clear for when I have to recreate these orders of conditions. I just want to make sure I'm clear. I need to know the square footage of permanent or temporary resource impacts.
Okay.
So I need a number, okay?
For each individual
Yeah.
local and state buffer zone.
Yeah.
We did provide those in a
Okay.
letter.
Okay.
They're still valid, right?
Yeah, beyond the table they submitted.
In that table. It's got
Okay.
it all spelled out. I mean, if you like that breakdown, then I think it has.
Okay, I
what you need.
forgot about that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
We tried to use that table to mirror
yeah,
the original order.
yeah.
It should be it's the same category.
Well, right now, it says the alterations are, in the original order, it says alterations are 2,060, and then replacements 2,060. That's all we have in the original order, so. You must,
We've got more detail
Yeah.
here, somehow.
thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, do we, Charlie?
You can make the motion, I need to write.
Okay. Make a motion to close the hearing?
Make a
issue an
motion.
order of conditions.
Make a motion, we close the hearing tonight and issue an order of conditions.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Lisa, you, stay in contact certainly with Nancy and what they need.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay,
Oh, yeah. So I'm away next week.
yeah, but that's,
The following week,
Well, thank you all very much and for the input along the
Okay.
way. So, thank you.
thank you.
wait a minute.
Good night, guys, thank you.
Long meeting. Do I have another one?
Jack, there was a signed signature sheet,
Yep.
and I didn't get one in my packet.
Oh.
Jack got this when he signed the sheet, I just read it.
I gave you a packet. You didn't,
It's not in there.
oh, it's not?
Yeah, I read Jack's
All right, hold on.
earlier, so
I
it's
got
not,
that one. I'm on the spot that the other board people, they must have done that.
that was Jack's.
Oh, okay.
He tore up
He's
his.
supposed to keep it.
Okay, yeah, I'll give it back to him. I read it, and he had signed it.
The meeting's not over yet. We have other things to talk about.
Calm down. Gonna give you this.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah. Lot of movement. Okay, we'll take you next. Can we take, Jim, can we please take, this out of order? He's here. He's sitting in the back here, and I'd like to just let him, because I'm gonna update you on everything.
Lisa Saint, Pleasant Street, Marsh.
2544.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
All right, that's the
Okay.
one, you need it?
Okay, I would like to take the, another item out of, order. I'd like a motion from someone to take 2544 Pleasant Street Marsh Cutting, next. Can I have a motion? 20, ahead.
2544.
Take 2544 Pleasant Street, Marsh Cutting Project,
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, I was notified that there was cutting being done on the marsh on the Taunton River, and I checked it out. I looked up the owner, contacted the owner with a letter, and now this is why Alex Cymbalski is here today.
So Alex?
Yes.
Okay. Just, I know,
I don't know how
I
it
visited the site too, but I think that, you wanna just tell us a little bit about what you were cutting, and then we'll make comment on it.
Yeah, certainly. The cutting has actually been done yearly for about, I'd say about 7 years, if I had to guess, on vegetation. I'd say about 90% Phragmites or common reed is the Latin name is Phragmites, but it's 10% or so is staghorn sumac, a little bit closer to the road. Obviously, there's poison ivy, oriental bittersweet mixed in there as well. That was what was trimmed. That has been trimmed right around this time like I said, maybe for the past 7 years. So I've done it every year, so just something I've done.
Okay, I think that when Lisa sent you the letter, because we get calls on what's going on, if you, we're not saying that that's, the Phragmites, that's invasive species, and the other as well, to inform the commission that you are doing so that if calls start coming in, we don't have to make unnecessary runs down the street. And,
Right.
I think that's really what it's all about. Okay, Lisa, you have any additional comments?
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest issue is, up the road a bit, we had some cutting, but it wasn't the Phragmites. And, I then realized that the house was added onto without a permit. So that project, they're actually gonna be filing with us for notice of intent for the house. But, marsh alteration, especially like coastal habitat, we need to take it serious because you never know what's underneath.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that they weren't using any chemicals, which he reassured me that they weren't, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I have done it for hire before, actually. So I'm in the business of mostly lawn care, but I have gone to multiple golf courses throughout the state for Phragmites, spraying a product called Clear Cast. But no, that was not applied.
Well, when I went down, I saw what you were doing was acceptable, but it puts us all on the run.
Absolutely.
Something that's, that we didn't have to do.
Right.
And I think, a phone call or a text saying, hey, we're going, I'm going to do this, something, it would relieve us from difficulties. That's about it. Anything else, Lisa?
No, thanks for coming in.
Any comment?
Yeah,
Thank you for coming.
Can I bring something else up?
Sure.
Yeah, so I've lived in town my whole life. I'm 28 now. And, when this all happened, we took some photos out and we looked at the property. And there was no Phragmites on the whole riverside. So it'd be the west side, east side, of the street. It was all that marsh, the marsh grass, the seagrass, I guess. I don't know the technical term, but I've never touched it, so that's why I don't know it. But I was just curious because I know Barnstable, Marshfield, there's a bunch of towns have actually done projects to try to restore the natural habitat.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, but my Eagle project was the Osprey Landing in town. I worked with Broad Cove Nature Trail when it first was put up. So I know Sweet Knolls is here, and I'm on the river frequently, so I see the encroachment. I've seen it in my time, but I don't know. I think that I don't want to throw more work or whatever, but it's just a thought.
Do you want to volunteer?
I knew that would come up.
A double Eagle Scout?
Yeah.
I do have.
Are you familiar with Prince's house?
Vaguely. I'm on the other side of town, but yeah.
Well, no, but I mean across from Dunkin' Donuts down there.
Yes. Yep.
From the edge of the blacktop to the town river, there used to be an orchard there, approximately 30 trees. You can't even get off the edge of the parking lot anymore, so.
Wow. Yeah.
You say invasive species take over.
I do have a comment, because I work, as a consultant, and not in Dayton, obviously, and I'm working on a project in Newport. And I know Save the Bay has written some articles recently. It seems like climate change and sea level rise might take care of some of that Phragmites, so let's hope it does.
Don't hold your breath, ladies.
Yeah. But no, that's. Yeah. No. I mean, I think the eelgrass it's been doing better the last couple of years. I've seen the increase. I'm on the river every day almost, so
Yeah.
I see it.
Okay.
Great.
All right, thank you for coming in, and
It does have some benefits.
The Phragmites?
I mean, it's stabilizing the bank, if you
No, I
wanna
agree.
think of it that way, and I'm grateful that,
Right.
we did cut the seed heads.
Right. Yeah, I know. And I do apologize, and contact will be given, so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
all right, thank you for coming. Okay, we're gonna go back to our regular set agenda. We have a payment to review and pay from Beta invoice number 9 for $3,852.50.
Motion?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve payment to Beta, for invoice number 9 for services from July 3, 2021 to July 30, 2021 in the amount of $3,852.50.
That was for Strawberry Fields, correct? The 53G?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes. Okay,
Sign it. Every page, there, and the pages in the,
where? Over here too?
yeah, just keep signing the pages.
Just me? Just me, okay. Okay, now, Danny Page application for associate membership.
LePage.
Yes, LePage, okay.
L-E-P-H.
All right, Charlie, you got, let's get that.
Well,
Thank you, Lisa.
bad hearing.
Okay. Now, if I remember correctly, you lived, was it Elm Street way at one time? Or no?
Elm Street?
No?
he's
I'm
Cobb
thinking of
Lane.
someone else then.
Cobb Lane. Cobb Lane.
Confused.
Oh, no, I don't
No,
think so.
Just the name. I think it was
LePage. I mean,
down there,
the
wasn't it?
LePage twins. That's Robbie is my brother on Main Street, 670 Main Street.
I think
That's
Bill
where I live.
remembered that they were twins, yeah.
Oh, okay, all
Yeah, I
right.
am twins. I mean, yeah. My brother's a trumpet teacher.
Okay. All right.
Is there anything like you'd like to ask me, sir?
I don't know. I mean, okay, you.
My background?
Well, you wish to become an associate member?
I would be honored.
You enjoy wetland
Yes, I am.
monitoring and all of that?
I love that. I love especially monitoring wetlands.
And,
Absolutely. It needs to be taken care of specifically because there's a lot of people that don't know what they're doing. I happen to be very fortunate in my background, my training, to know what I'm
training
doing.
is that?
Specifically, I can go back to 2005. Started working at Mahoney's Garden Center in Falmouth, Massachusetts on Cape Cod. There, 2006, 2007, I opened up their planting division, specifically the first to open up the planting division out of Falmouth in Mahoney's. It was an honor to do so. And from there, I worked there till 2010. From there, I ended up going to S.E. Shires, which is a music manufacturing company building trumpets. From there, I worked as a technician, as a master craftsman. I became a master craftsman very quickly through the company. Very honored to be working with the likes of Doc Severinsen, members of the Chicago Symphony, Boston Symphony, LA Symphony, LA Philharmonic. There's a whole bunch of other people. But I was very honored to work that job also. So I worked that till, let me see, 2010.
Okay, well, okay, I think we can, rather than go.
And then I went
through
to
your history.
St. Albans Nursery in Eastham, where I worked, and I became their planting specialist there in conservation. They took me for classes, and I was paid to take classes. I was very honored to do that as well. Wonderful community there.
There's the nitty gritty.
Yes, sir.
That's the nitty gritty right there.
Yes, sir. Trained.
Yeah, I think.
I'm very interested in advancing my education as well.
What we like is people who want to preserve
Yes.
the wetlands, the wildlife, the fauna that's in the town of Dayton, and your interest is very high, and associate members are always welcome because they're going to learn and participate and of course be helpful to the commission itself. You guys have any questions, or?
No.
Charlie?
Thank you, sir.
We do have a member and an associate member that aren't here right now.
Now, who are those people?
Yeah.
Bill Frenette, he's the chairman.
Where does he live?
He lives on Hart Street.
Hart Street, okay.
And Kevin
Mr.
Bernardo.
Kevin Bernardo?
Bernardo, he's an associate also?
Yes.
How many
Well,
associates do you allow?
Bill Frenette is a member, he's a commissioner.
He is?
Yes,
Okay, where is he
Bernardo
today?
is an associate. So what we can do is vote you so that the selectmen appoint you as such.
Thank you.
Okay, we do not do the appointing. The appointing is done. We would give a recommendation to the selectmen to vote you as an associate
It would
member.
be an honor if I could go through that process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll buy that.
Okay, you gonna make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen to accept Daniel LePage as an associate member of the Conservation Commission.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, sirs.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so your name will be,
Thank you.
will go further,
Thank you.
and it will, you'll be hearing from us.
I look forward to hearing from you. There's no scheduled meeting that I should know about right now, though?
Well, right now, there's two in the works, the September 2nd, which is going to be the,
I'm not gonna be there, remember?
well, I think Marty is right, no, but you're not supposed to be anyway, but Marty will be,
He can be there,
sure.
yeah.
No, but, and then September 16th,
Yes, I already have the 16th, thank you.
here
They're
at
all
7 o'clock.
held
And if
here.
there's a
Here in the
problem
old town
on,
hall?
yeah, if there's a problem on the 2nd, we'll have to, well, that's going to be a small group, I would assume. So we could, if something happens, we could just go downstairs if there were another meeting here, up here.
Yes.
I will forward, or did I already forward his email? It has all his contact
I
information.
have my business card also, if you'd like to have that.
Yeah, maybe
Sure.
give that out.
Okay. This business card. I don't even have business cards.
I'm old fashioned. I come from Dayton.
Very organized.
Regency tree.
Yes, sir.
Now, okay, you say Regency tree. What, is this for growing trees or cutting trees?
It's planting, growing, pruning, otherist work.
Something I did for 50 years.
You did?
Or longer. I was a certified arborist in Massachusetts, worked for a small company in town, and then larger companies in other areas.
Who's that, sir?
Oh,
Stanley.
Dixon Tree Company at
And
the
then
time.
Stanley.
What was the name?
Hickson.
Creek up, right
Long
across
gone.
from the clock shop.
I ended up working out of the Worcester area for quite a long time.
But
And
you
he
worked,
became-
you
he
worked
became
for
independently
Stanley,
wealthy.
Charlie.
No way.
Didn't he work for Stanley? Stanley Tree. How long?
Stanley,
Yeah.
7 or 8 years.
Oh, that's it?
Northern Tree for maybe 15 years.
Oh.
Okay, shall we continue, guys?
78. How's that?
I think you're, I don't know how old.
That's why the hair on my chest is still black. My ears are gone, my eyes are gone, the rest of me.
Don't tell us what else is
Oh,
going.
no. Okay, all right, we're keeping it right. Thank you. Thank you.
It was hard work and it kept me alive, and I'm still perky.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
And all those chemicals you threw in the atmosphere.
Oh my God, DDT, chlorinate,
Okay.
Agent Orange, every winter.
Okay, let's go on to the next one.
Thank you. Thank you all, gentlemen.
61 land offer on,
Bye-bye. Nice meeting you. Thank you. Look forward to working with you.
you gonna offer us land? Oh, I thought you were coming up to offer us land.
No, no offering.
Received some correspondence in regards to that purchase. I'd just like to comment, if you allow me to at some point.
I can't hear you.
I said that a correspondence came across my desk in regards to a piece of land.
Okay,
You were interested, I'm not quite sure, I haven't seen your agenda. But I wanted to comment at some point in time.
Okay, this is William Street.
Yeah,
Correct. Aubrey Lane?
that's next on the agenda.
That's
here.
next, that's coming up right now.
Yes,
Yes, right now.
okay.
Oh. Oh, Nancy's involved in this too.
Yes.
So the large piece is a close-up, and the other map, so to speak, shows you the land around it.
Audrey Lane.
If you pass
No.
Wellington Street on the
This is
right,
landlocked?
Yep.
This, no. This is landlocked.
pass Wellington on the
It's the
right,
same piece of land.
Down to Pine Street.
I'm off that, I got it.
It goes to Brook.
This belongs to.
Oh, it's Brook Street Extension.
Yes.
So, now I gotta put on my Board of Assessors hat. The Board of Assessors was notified that the owners of map 16, lot 24, want this land taken out of chapter. And of course, when land's in chapter, the town of Dayton has the first refusal to purchase it. So, at the assessors meeting, we looked at the map, so that the little picture. A number of this land, lots around here, already belong to the town of Dayton and the Conservation Commission, okay? So when we saw that, it made sense that the town should exercise its option and buy that piece of property. It's wet, it's forested, it's got, you can see where, what they say is Brook Street Extension, that's Audrey Lane as it goes out towards Williams. So, I talked to Bill Frenette and Tom Ferry because they hunt the area and they know it very well. They both thought that the town should get this property. So,
We can afford $1.
very funny. So anyhow, the Board of Assessors voted to send a letter to the Board of Selectmen, because we have to make a recommendation when someone wants to take land out of chapter. And the recommendation was, the town should exercise its option to purchase this land for open space and recreation. And that once the selectmen do that, and the reason is because when I talked to Mr. Frenette, he said that the Conservation Commission would be interested in this parcel, because as I said, there's other land here that's already Concom land. So, what you're looking at tonight is, I'm asking you to look at and see if you would vote to send a letter to the Board of Selectmen saying that you support the town exercising its option to purchase this property. Now, what will happen is, if you do that, then the Board of Selectmen will take action to exercise the option. Now, what would have to happen next is, as if I were doing an easement for a bridge and I needed land or something, we would have the property appraised by someone qualified to appraise it, like we do easements for bridges and like we did for the Brook Street land where we got the river there. We will determine what the value of the property is. We will notify the property owner that it's been appraised and that we're interested in acquiring it, and the process would continue. Now, if Concom is going to buy it, you'd use your own funds. If Concom decides that you're not going to use your funds, we would be putting a special article on the November 1st town meeting warrant for the amount we need. So, the interesting thing is, in discussing this piece of property with Mr. Ferry and Mr. Frenette, Mr. Ferry said, on that lane, there is a historic stone bridge, probably going back to when the roads were laid out in the town, so we know it's old. And potentially, there may be only one other one in the town, but when we heard that there was a bridge on it, and it has some historic significance, I got in touch with Mrs. Gale. So I think Mrs. Gales also wants to speak about this tonight from her perspective. So, Mrs. Gales?
How are you gonna access this?
Oh, yeah, can I just
We would, excuse me,
have this letter?
excuse me. I am going to ask you to recuse yourself because I know you've been involved in providing professional services. And if you have read the conflict of interest law and taken the training, I am advising you to stay out of this.
Okay, that's fine.
okay?
I just wanted to bring the letter that the commission received up.
Exactly,
From the attorney.
except it's not relevant because in this whole process, when land is in chapter and the owner wants to take it out of chapter, the right of first refusal is with the town. Normally we say, no, we're not interested, but
What do they want for it?
This-
They put a price tag on it.
the price on it is going to be based on the appraisal.
No, but if they are going to, they didn't put a number.
Example, Brook Street, the river, the parcel with the water rights that we bought with, I think it was it CPC money? I contacted the owners of that property and said, do you want to sell that land? They said, yeah, it's, we've been selling off small pieces. Again, although it said Montauk, the company is NRG, which is a huge electrical conglomerate. So I said to him, do you have any idea what you want for it? And they said, well, what's the value of it? I said, I can tell you what the value is on the assessor's records, but if you're interested in selling it, we will have it appraised by a professional appraiser. And we will tell you what that is. So they gave us a ballpark number of $25,000 to $35,000. We had it appraised. It came in right around $35,000. So I got back to them and said, we'll make an offer on the property of $30,000. The appraisal's around $35,000, and you gave us a range, so we're coming in at the middle. So we getting ready for town meeting to get the money we needed to buy that property. They got back to me and said, you know what? We're going to stick with 35. So we said, okay, all right. We had put enough money on the article at town meeting so that we could buy it and take care of the closing and the legal fees, the stuff you have. I think it was either the day of the town meeting or a day before, I called them up and said, would you consider $33,000? And they said, well, we're going to have closing and taxes. I said, there's no taxes. It's a municipality. You're not going to pay taxes. And in all honesty, closing costs are going to be minimal. So they said 33, all right? So the whole thing is, if the town is going to acquire property and they have to pay for it, there must be an appraisal.
Okay.
Okay? So
How big is this parcel?
the whole thing is, Mr. Ferry, do you have that on your map?
I know the answer if you want me to speak
What's-
up.
what is-
It's 13.3 according to the assessor's map.
Okay,
I have a question.
sure.
I was under the impression that Tony Roddick bought a piece of this property.
No.
You can't buy property that's in chapter unless the town releases it.
There's been negotiations between the.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
A letter came in from an attorney to the town indicating this. It came into the Board of Assessors, all right? You must follow the procedure. It's like mathematics. You have to do orders of operation. The land is in chapter. The law says you must notify the town to see if the town is interested. Solar farms that have been on farmland that are in chapter, they come to us and say, you want to buy it? And if the answer is no, it comes out of chapter, they pay the back taxes, which goes to the Conservation Commission to acquire property. Okay, the back taxes. Then they can proceed with either selling it or building a solar farm, whatever they're going to do with it. But you must offer it to the town first. And that's what this is. So, in looking at this, it has to be appraised by a certified appraiser, like we use for all of our easements, sidewalks, bridges, land, you name it, okay? These appraisers are specifically licensed to do this. These are not real estate agents. They're specifically licensed to do these appraisals. Then we'll know how much it is. But in talking to Mr. Fournette, the main thing was, he said that the town should acquire it. So all I'm asking you to do tonight is to vote to notify the Board of Selectmen that you believe the town should exercise its option to acquire the property.
It's a landlocked piece of land. You didn't answer my question. How are you going to access that?
It's an easement. excuse me, no,
It
with,
was given up
Okay.
by the town.
I
years
didn't
ago.
say with an easement, through an easement.
Where you gonna get an easement?
You negotiate one. How do you think I got easements on all the properties that we needed?
Well, first of all, you gotta go through me, my two sisters, gotta go through Pacheco, and you gotta go through the solar farm.
So
If
I
you
will
wanna
back
get
it up, I will back it up further, Jack. How did you acquire conservation land if it's landlocked? The town of Dayton already owns land down there, and it's landlocked. This would add to the property the town owns.
You have access around it. You don't have access around this.
We do, because it will be next to the Dayton land we already own, or the conservation land that's already owned.
No, I mean, you got the solar farm, you have my family, you have Evan Pacheco, you have Huey Woodard, you have the Reeds.
Do you show the
and
Dayton?
you have the Reeds again.
It's Reed property that we would be buying.
This piece here,
The piece that's on this little map is Reed, and also, you see on this big map, there's a circle here?
yeah.
See that little circle? We have been told that they want to take that out of chapter also. But we obviously can't discuss that one now because we don't have that information. The property that's outlined is Reed property.
I was told that that was already acquired by somebody else,
Well, as I said,
and he bought access from the other side to get to it.
I'm only telling you what the law says regarding chapter land.
So that's
But I mean, like I
non-buildable
said, the town gave up
because of
that
the
easement
stream, right?
years ago.
Oh, it's a big, big.
So what I'm saying to you is,
So
you negotiate easements. But furthermore, we already own the land around it. So, we have conservation land, we have town of Dayton land. If the concern was access to it, I would have thought that would have been raised probably generations before any of us were around. But the town land is there, and if you go in the assessor's office and look this up, you'll see it. That was one of the things we looked at and said, there's town land around this. As a matter of fact, there was town land that would abut it.
What's the rest of the assessor's map that goes with that Carol gave me?
So, what I'm saying to the Conservation Commission tonight is, if you vote to send a letter to the town that says, we recommend your right to first refusal to acquire the property, you're not committing anything. You're not committing money or anything else, because the first thing we would have to do is have the Board of Selectmen vote to exercise the option, and then we would have to get it appraised, and we would have to talk to the owners. You're not committing conservation money at this point. Now, Mrs. Gales is here from the Historical Commission, because obviously she's interested in the bridge. I have spoken to the chairman of the Historical Society, and they also feel that this would be worth acquiring as open space and recreation. We have 120 days to exercise the option.
I don't know how that fits in here. I don't know how that fits in. So here is Brook Street. So that's the lot right here. Okay. With the stream going right through it. So the land by itself is useless for development.
Yeah, right.
It's useless for the development, so it should be a cheap, but where's the land here that the town owns?
It's coming, I don't know. That's the IT, that's Woodard's, that's Reed's, that's Reed's.
There's no, I mean, over here it says Town of Dayton's on one of them here, but I don't know where that is comparison to this.
Can I ask a question just as an outside party? When a parcel comes up for sale, if is it the whole parcel or just a portion of it that they're offering? It looked like it was offering, they were only offering two. So can the town offer to buy the whole thing?
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about,
Because they only offered you guys
they're
two.
talking about map 16, lot 24. We have since gotten information, there's the parcel that abuts it, that's probably gonna be for sale, the parcel. If they ask for that piece to be taken out of chapter, we'll look at it.
Wait, let me see this one. Does this fit in? Oh, here's Brook Street here, maybe this goes this way. But no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't get down there. Just like I say, you got Woodards. And then over here, Woodard abuts my property. There's a chunk in here that belongs to Pacheco. And then, you know, behind that is that, and then the solar farm.
Well, these maps just don't seem to.
They don't line up. This is coming in off William Street.
Yeah,
This is where Tony just built those houses right here.
yeah. This is the one that we just gave
Right.
certificate to right here.
This, he's got this piece here.
Is that
He
Brook
started
Street or is that
no,
Main Street?
No. That's
I
the
had them
path
lined
down
up.
the road. That's the
They do
Audrey
line
Lane.
up.
That's Audrey, Audrey Lane coming down through. They call it Brook Street Extension, it's Old Audrey Lane. But he's already started clearing this a little bit, cause he's got another lot down in here. that he
I thought
wants
there
to
were
get
already a
behind.
couple of houses in here.
Yeah, there is up here. But he cut himself off here, so he's gonna come in there. But this, like I say, that's Huey Woods, and then this is the Reed piece, another Reed piece. But Huey comes over here and abuts me and my two sisters. Ever Pacheco's out here.
But it doesn't have your name on it.
No, because it doesn't go up that far. It stops, these don't go together.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
comes down, then there's Pacheco, then there's my family.
so there's
and
another,
then
so there's
solar
another,
farm
so
over
there's
here.
another section right here then.
Yeah, that doesn't go down to the end.
Okay.
You have something that you'd like to show us?
I'm Kathy Oldham, I'm the chairperson of the Historical Commission. And when I heard about the stone bridge that was there, I didn't know it was there, but my husband did because he's a hunter and a field guy, and he said it's been there for a long time. The interest that the Historical Commission would be is that this structure is unknown. We're not sure about the age, but it's been there a while, and it would just add to the historical landscape of our town. As you all know, that area up there has a lot of history. Buck Plain Meeting House was there, the Traftons lived there were Whitmarshes, all Walkers, lots of history of Dayton centered in that area from the early times of Dayton. So I just feel it would be a good purchase for the town, and that's my input. I do have some.
What's the land right there where that brook is? Slide that down, Jim. There's a brook right there with the thing, huh? That's right there, that's on Reed's.
Why can't I picture Brook Street going into Williams?
Right there.
I also have some older maps that show like Brook Street going straight through to William Street. It's not labeled as Audrey Lane or anything, but it just shows it going Brook right up from Elm all the way to Williams.
That's Main Street?
Where's your map? This is,
Probably gave that up about 40 years ago.
this runs down to
Excuse
the
me?
intersection.
Alan gave that up about 40 years ago. George Sylvia.
Oh, we know about the lane. The other thing I should explain to you,
Okay, so I'm on
think it's
another
worth talking
corner then. It's over here where Roderick's is building houses too.
This- No. Roderick's has a piece of land that comes right down here. This is his. And this may be his.
That piece of Robert's
Trying to
right
buy
down
this.
on Reed.
It's pretty buried. And there's a huge amount of wetlands in here.
So I should explain to you.
It follows the stream right down.
So the reason I had to recuse myself, so everybody knows, is I flagged that wetland for Mr. Roderick a couple years ago. So I'm familiar with the wetland, and there's a stream system in there.
So the reason I brought this to you is because I spoke to Mr. Fournette, and like Mr. Ferry and like her husband, they hunt and they know the area. And he said that would be excellent to acquire, wetlands, open space, the whole thing. I brought it to you to see if you want to offer an opinion to the Board of Selectmen. You can decline even sending a letter to them. You don't have to do anything if you choose not to, because then it will go to the Board of Selectmen and they will make the decision about acquiring the property. The reason I brought it to Concom is because Mr. Fournette thought it was worth considering to acquire because there is other Dayton land and Dayton Conservation Commission land around it. I mean, they're familiar with that.
On this map here, it does not show any
No,
town.
obviously, if we were in the assessor's office with those big panels, all right? Because we looked at that when we got the notification initially, and we were saying, oh, there's Dayton, or there's town of Dayton, and we saw other people. And so this piece of property belongs to the Reed family.
Yes.
Okay. And there's another piece we heard today may also be available. Right now, we're only talking about map 16, lot 24. So, again, because Mr. Fournette was not going to be here today, I said to him, do you want me to pursue this at the Concom meetings and see what they want to do? And he says, yeah, I think it's important. We should try to acquire. So that's why I'm here. But again, you are not pressured to do anything because the Board of Selectmen, in other words, we're looking for a recommendation if you choose to make one, but you don't have to. And the main thing is, I'm going to assume, a big assume, that the Board of Selectmen will support acquiring it for open space and recreation, and because of that historic bridge.
If there's that much wetlands in it, how much recreation is there?
I don't know, because I don't have that big map from the assessor's office to show you all the rest.
I'm not saying it's not good to do to send it off to the selectmen to decide. But if there's that much wetlands, maybe they want to donate it.
Well, I got to tell you, the process for easements, whether they're permanent or temporary, the first thing you do is, we would, if it were a sidewalk going by your house, the first thing we'd do is hire a surveyor, somebody like Roy Delano, and Mr. Ferry would tell him exactly how he wanted it laid out. He would lay it out, he would search all the titles, tell us who all the property owners are. We would then have a professional appraiser come in, and each lot would be appraised for that sidewalk. Center Street sidewalk from the highway down to the Aggie School, those are all permanent easements, okay? We approached with each family individually, property owner. We negotiated the amount of money that was appraised at. They accepted the appraisals. We paid them that money. And so the permanent easement belongs to the town of Dayton. The land under it belongs to the property owner. But by giving us selling us the property, the permanent easements, it means that at any time the town can go on the property and maintain the sidewalk or fix it or whatever. So there has to be an appraisal. Okay. I mean, as I said, it's like math. You have an order of operations. So we got notified at the Board of Assessors. The assessors notified the selectmen. Because I talked to Mr. Fournette, I'm here tonight. If you want to send a letter saying the town we think they should exercise the option, fine. You can say, well, we're not going to get involved, all right? it'll go to the Board of Selectmen. Now, what will happen is, once we get it appraised and all that, and we know how much the appraisal is, then we would be probably getting back to conservation and saying, this is the amount. Are you now interested in acquiring it outside, with your own funds? If you say yes, fine. If not, then we would be going to town meeting like we did with the Brook Street land, and that, we got that through CPC.
Okay, I think Tom's getting anxious. Tom,
Probably wants to
you gonna
go home.
say something? You wish to say something?
I can show you on the town GIS and the type of wetland by aerial and type of trees, if you'd like to see that. And
Bring it up.
and the connection with the town property to the north. There's not a big screen up there. Yeah. So Jack's correct on the property owners, as he was saying. I just told Chris today, you should be able to see who the owners are. Who's up there?
So it's on the north side of Brook.
This one here is the 27 acres we already own. I'm not sure it's conservation, but it's town land.
It's town property, though.
Yeah, that one is town property there.
Okay.
Dunton Industries right here. So you obviously the green is the
Is that town property too?
This here is Dunton Industry. And then this is the Carpenters from William Street.
Okay.
So this here is the 27 acres that's directly to the north. This property here is the one in question. The same owner owns the piece just to the east. That one there, that's about 10 acres. And I believe that one is a Pacheco's.
So actually, by getting that piece,
That's Woodage right there, right?
Yeah, this one is
Yeah, that's Woodage, then the next one's us,
right.
and then
But
the solar farm.
Right, so the conversation easement, when that's down the road, when you need access, it doesn't necessarily have to be from Brook Street, doesn't necessarily have to be from Williams. You already own this piece here, and obviously the shorter distance will be Waterford Circle, 'cause that's,
Because that part of Audrey Lane is almost unpassable where the wetlands is.
Yeah.
correct. Well, that's why the stone bridge is there.
Yeah.
To the west of the stone bridge, it's almost unpassable. That's very wet past the bridge.
Do you hunt, Charlie? Do you hunt?
Oh, years ago, we used to spray Audrey Lane so the town could get some kind of state funding,
Oh, okay.
just to keep it open.
Oh, okay.
If you would take notice of the type of trees, so you can tell you an idea what soils are. You got mostly pines here, and obviously this is all hardwoods. And then the piece in question is mixed. Both pieces, if the property owner is willing to get both of them. But right now, the one that's discussion is this one here.
Yeah, then the next one, Reed's also, no, that's Pacheco.
Right, this one here is Reed's, that one's 10 acres, and then it's Pacheco, correct?
If by any chance that other property that belongs to the Reed family comes up, they've got to go through the same process, because it's chapter land.
Tony was trying to buy that little corner up there.
This one here, yes. That's what spurred this, because we have right for first refusal. That's
But he
why we
wasn't
did it.
buying the whole lot, just that little thing.
Correct.
I don't know why, but
Right, but that brings a whole lot in question, because we had the first refusal.
because that's the worst part of Audrey Lane, right there.
Yeah. Wet-wise, yes,
Yes.
yes.
I think we asked Mr. Ferry
It
if we
also-
want,
excuse
yeah,
me,
go ahead.
Because of that, it causes some trees that have not been cut. So it's probably one of the few places in town that is as virgin as possible.
Oh, you mean old growth forest?
Well, it's not old growth, but it's a lot of age.
Very old.
The diamond industry is involved in that area, so obviously.
Yes,
it was
they have a
obviously
lot
at
that
one
runs
time.
right up.
Yeah, only as far as the hardwood, but, not the softwood. Because Dyke Industries bought all the stiles in hot. The stiles in hot was only looking for hardwood
Right.
to kill their bricks with.
So that's probably why we see the pines the way we do.
Yeah, no, that's why the pines are there, yeah.
Right.
We asked Mr. Ferry, if we wanted to hike up to the bridge, how would we get there so we could see it?
This one is.
And he estimated from the Pine and Brook Street intersection It's roughly 2,200 feet. And then he said, you can't get to it from the other end because it's too wet. Okay, so we got a few people that would like to hike it and see what this thing is like.
Just to the south of Huey's is Stanton Street. Just to the south of Huey is Stanton Street.
Yeah.
And to the north of Ivy Lane would be Stanton Street, but the piece we're talking about tonight directly abuts the 27 acres with all the pines. So if you're gonna, there's already existing ATV trails that have been stopped used, but they're still trails. So it's not like you gotta bust trails for open space use or trail system, which you already know there's a lot of development already in that area. So it's basically shovel ready for a trail system.
The other thing I will mention is, last night at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, a letter was read from I know the family lived in Dayton, I think she does, but her concern was that the town should stop approving solar farms. And the response was pretty much, if they meet all the requirements, it's kind of difficult not to permit them. So one of the things that I said was, well, the other thing too is, we have tried to acquire open space land for recreation, even if we're not going to do anything with it, per se, because we realize the importance of keeping trees and keeping forests and keeping natural habitat for animals. This is sort of out in the middle of nowhere that I would think there's a lot of animals out there, whatever, deer, you know, but it's not, as he said, it's not an area you would develop. So, whatever. But anyhow, that's why this is before you.
Okay, let's, is there someone wishing to make a motion?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Oh, you want to speak? I didn't see you there.
Okay. Good evening. Leonard Hall, member of the Board of Selectmen, 760 Main Street, Dayton. When information came across our desk in regard to this parcel of land, we checked into our legal options in regarding of the town purchasing this land. And we were advised that we did have the right of first refusal, with the understanding we had 120 days to respond. We are aware that there is someone else interested in this parcel of land. With that in mind, I'm coming before you this evening and asking for your consideration and your recommendation to my board to accept this land or for the town of Dayton to purchase this land. My concerns, to preserve the habitat from the potential impact of neighboring development. You already have a situation where you have a neighboring solar farm in that vicinity that has neighbors concerned about future deforestation. And as Mrs. Goulart mentioned a moment ago, preserving trees, preserving wildlife in that area. With that in mind, I'm asking if you would vote this evening to make a recommendation to preserve that land for conservation use or open space.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion? Charlie or Jim or?
I wouldn't know how to frame it.
Well, we can frame it if you wish to make a motion, just talk about what you want.
Mr. Chairman, if I
didn't
may?
realize it abutted town property, so it may have some value to us. What Nancy suggests doesn't sound like a bad move. We're only asking them to consider, just like them to consider making a purchase.
Okay, we'll make a motion on that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
If you make a motion tonight to send a letter to the Board of Selectmen supporting the town acquiring this property, that's all we need. What will happen is, with that, the Board of Selectmen will now act on the information it has. Assessors are saying you should acquire it. If Concom sends a letter that says that, that's 2 pluses. They will look at it. If they decide to exercise the option, then the next step will kick in. We've got to contact the owner and say we're interested, and we will get the property appraised. And if, in fact, once we know that, you will get the information about the town can acquire this property for X dollars. If the Conservation Commission says we want to buy it and we're going to put a conservation restriction on it, we don't have to go to town meeting. If you choose not to buy it, we're going to put an article on the town meeting warrant so the town will acquire it. So that's, you're not committing dollars tonight. That's all I'm saying to you.
No, I understand. So, what I'm asking is if any of these.
Make the motion, I'll second it, how's that?
I make a motion that we forward a letter to the Board of Selectmen to exercise their option on this piece of property.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
You got it?
Thank you.
Nancy, you can sell refrigerators to an Eskimo.
No, sir.
And for the record, there's like the biggest buck in town out there.
Okay, Hot Street Stormwater.
There goes the critter killer.
I won't tell you what I did today.
Hard Street Stormwater. Okay, let's make this one short and sweet today.
What?
I'm closer.
Okay, Hard Street Stormwater. We, so I've continued to monitor the situation. The grass is growing out there. The pond across on Mr. Frenette's property continues to look coffee-like, and there's still no clear answer where the dirt is coming from, but we know 586 is also under construction, so,
Can't tell whether it's Camara's or...
you know, without chasing it up through the rose bushes in the middle, of course you can't, you know, we don't have access on that 586 property, but we do on Mr. Duart's property. So, you know, it's just the same concern every time there's a large rain event. I know we're gonna get more rain this coming week, and I'm a little nervous because I won't be around.
That might be good.
Yeah.
You know, the forecast keeps changing. I heard 1 to 2 inches, and then it's down to 1/4 of an inch. Now it's down to 1/4 of an inch for the latest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For Monday? Okay.
Sunday.
It was 2 inches.
So, the last one was down. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll know Tuesday.
Can someone, I'm just asking if someone could just try to get out there and take some photos. See what you see, especially along the street near the mailbox of 586. I know the
Okay.
stormwater agent's always, already also taking a look at it, but I just, you know, someone from conservation should be too.
Okay, can we, we're gonna
Yeah.
push on here, because
Yeah,
we still
push
got
on.
several items.
So yeah, I've got summaries. Instead of making all these people come to the meeting, I do have summaries. 2396 Pleasant Street, Mr. Beardos. I've been in contact with him and his engineer, Lighthouse Engineering and Surveying. Said that we should expect a notice of intent sometime after August 23rd. So either September or October meeting. And then, so I'm happy with that, because I did say, hey, where's this at? You know, we wrote you a letter in like February, March, and
Are we talking about weirdos now?
yeah,
Is he ever gonna file?
yeah. So he was hesitant to pay to have the wetland scientists do the work, and his engineer, I believe the guy's name is Richard from Lighthouse, was able to break through to him, and it's been flagged. So now we're just waiting on the actual notice of intent. But I've told them, you know, you're in a floodplain, you have performance standards you need to meet. So, you know, they have to show that they've done all, even though they already built the house, they still have to prove that they protected the resources during the development, so we'll see how that goes. All right,
DeRosa.
nothing, there's nothing with that. Nothing's happened.
I go by there often enough and I see nothing.
Yeah, but I mean, he hasn't been in contact. I don't really know what, you know, like I said last meeting, if we start fining him, to what end? I mean, he can't pay his taxes, so.
Well, then maybe if he can't pay his taxes, maybe that's gonna be a default on his part.
Yeah.
Okay, Cedar Street?
Okay, 1566 Cedar, so the wetland scientist, and I think I told you that one of the last meetings, we met out there to go over the disturbance areas.
Yep.
And he had flagged it. He sent me a sketch showing mitigation areas and you know, the areas we're gonna propose mitigation on. So since that Zenith Engineers have gotten involved, and I'm told we should be getting something soon.
Yeah, when I was out there with you, he seemed to be very accommodating.
Yeah.
Okay, 1035 Williams?
Okay, so this is the gentleman that had an open order that bought the house from TLC Development and decided to add a garage.
Okay.
After he went to the building department and thought he was doing the right thing. So he cleared some land in the back as well. So not only is the garage, a portion of it's in our 50-foot no build, but he's also cleared in the 25-foot no touch. So since then, he had Outback come out and they had to stake because they staked the wetland line, and then he staked the 25-foot, and I went out there and viewed that with him, and we talked about, now I'm not gonna make him take the damn garage down, I mean, at this point.
Yeah.
However, you know, he's got to mitigate for the fact that he's got stormwater coming off, and I told him I didn't want pavement. He's obviously gonna need a turnaround because he wants to be able to get his camper, and so there is an area that is, I would say, at the south end of his property that he's willing to, you know, leave as is, where he could actually clear up to it. Instead, he's also gonna plant. He's gonna plant some more trees. There's already some herbaceous material coming in because the seeds and everything was left. Luckily, he didn't do any filling in there. So it could be a lot worse, and he's definitely working with me, so that's good. However, he's found it to be very frustrating that he did come for a garage permit and was able to get that garage permit without anyone telling him that he had an open order of conditions.
Okay, we got the County Street,
Okay.
183.
Okay, 2371 County, that situation is also before the Stormwater Committee, and they met with, I was in attendance at the meeting, they met with Mr. Enos and his attorney, Mr. Mitchell, yesterday. So this is the one, Jim's been out there, I don't know if anyone else has been out there, but the fill is pretty extensive and it goes back many years. So on top of the old fill of God knows what's in there, appliances, construction debris, on top of that is new, mostly organic matter that the owner admitted was dumped there by T-Scape. So he's since got an estimate from T-Scape to remove that, and the Stormwater Committee agreed to the two of the three tasks. So he had removal with a bobcat And then the third task, which no one's agreeing to, was to allow him to fill in the area. He's decided not to do that. So, you know, obviously he needs permitting to be able to do that sort of thing. So, in any case, I've let the attorney know. I spoke with him today. I told him he didn't have to come to the meeting. I let him know that, you know, in order for Mr. Enos to move forward with any type of fill in the future, I know he's not gonna be able to remove all of this with the Bobcat, but at least he's making initial efforts.
He needs a huge excavator to do that.
So that's gonna be a process, and this is just the initial. But down the line, I said, you know, you really need to contact an engineering firm so that you could give him the advice so he knows exactly what he's getting into by trying to fill a wetland, because it's A, very expensive, B, very time consuming, you know, the permitting involved with it. And the other thing is, you know, you really don't want to dam up a BVW. We've already got West Nile here, you know, so we want to pull that out and allow the water to flow through. So that's where that's at. I've asked them to notify, well, we've asked them to notify Mr. Pilling and Mr. Aguirre and myself prior to them starting to remove some of the debris.
Okay, I think they're gonna be the ones that are gonna be mainly involved in that. Okay, I'm pushing it along because of
Great.
the hour. 26:48?
Okay, so that's Joe Mata, down on County Street. You're familiar with that. The replication area isn't completed. We had asked him to file for an extension so that it could go through
That's
the
a replication area.
Yeah. So it could, you know, be approved in the spring of 2022. In the meantime, the Board of Health and I have received complaints, and the building inspector as well, about this, because it either settled or it, you know, whatever happened, the contractor dug too deep, he hit groundwater. So instead of having like a 3-foot drop, he's got like a 5 or 6 foot drop, and it's not really good. The vegetation around it seems to be coming in pretty good, and it's establishing well. I saw some monarchs out there. It was nice. It was good to see. But the barnyard grass is so tall in that area that I told him, I said, you're shading out all the blueberries. They're not even gonna grow now. So, you know, they have until next spring to come into complete compliance with it and fix it. However, the building inspector wanted either a fence put up, or we want it a little more level so it's not such a drop, because if someone fell in there, it would be pretty dangerous. So that's where we're at with that. We met with Insight Engineering on site, as well as his name is Jeff Hickey, the contractor. And Jeff was amenable to doing what we need, as long as Joe Mata, who's in charge of paying everybody. So that's where we're at with that one.
Okay, town clerk?
Oh, yeah. Yes, so we've all got to do the conflict of interest.
If you go on that website that Lisa sent to us, it's, hit the, when you look at the menu, you can go directly to the 2.1, 2.2. You'll see what I mean, and just click on that.
Yeah.
And then go and keep on going down, 3.1, 3. And you have your questions there, and you can answer your questions, and then.
I did that.
You get a certificate?
You got a certificate?
Yeah, I got my certificate and all.
Okay,
good.
bring it to them, just bring it into.
Bring it to the town clerk.
I emailed it to him.
Perfect.
You're all set then?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
So it's something everybody has to do.
I did it the same day I got it.
Okay,
So we just need to make sure everybody did, so when Jack comes back, can we just remind him to do that?
okay, all right, I'm gonna go right on to request for an amendment order of conditions.
Yeah, we received that email.
TLC.
Yeah, we received that email late tonight, there's no action needed on the
What they're
commission.
asking for is a meeting, a hearing.
Right, well, just like Clearway, and just like I told them back in March, they need to file a note, for a notice, they have to revise their notice of intent. So they need to notify the abutters, there's a
They
change.
can come to the meeting, we tell them that, again.
Okay, Broad
We're gonna-
Cove,
We should schedule a hearing for them.
Well, we can't schedule an actual hearing because,
They asked for
a
one.
meeting, no, a meeting,
no, it would be a meeting.
a meeting, not a hearing.
Or I can just give them, send them an
And we
email.
can Go right through the same thing again. They asked for it, it's a simple thing to give it to them. We don't have to agree with it, we don't have to give them an amended order. Just put them on the next hearing.
That's fine.
That's what they're asking for.
Yeah, they also asked to do some perks. So, I wasn't gonna say no, so I'm allowing them to do the perks because they're trying to come up with their alternatives analysis for DEP. DEP under the water quality certificate's asking for an alternatives
They're
analysis.
trying to sell that crooked, what do you call it? Damn, tough to get all these.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it.
Well, they had one entrance, and now they wanna put a new, help me out.
Well, no,
Entrance
you mean
or
the,
right-of-way drive?
It's a
one of the,
big,
they were thinking about making them put like a bridge over, but,
Yes.
but that's just one option. No, but the deal is they wanted them to prove that they couldn't put the house at the front, and it was never perked. So DEP said, prove to us that you can't put the house
I
there,
thought they claimed it was perked.
but it actually never was. So DEP is making them actually perk it.
Because they did say that at the one hearing.
Yeah, but there was no paperwork found on it. They could put a house there, but it's not the house size that this gentleman wants. And it doesn't fit in with the market values. That's where we're at with that one.
What
so-
address is that?
That is Zero Horton, TLC Development. So the other thing that I want to,
Okay, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
the other thing I want to remind you about is,
Gee, okay.
so they're still in the process of receiving their water quality certificate. They're not in compliance yet, and they're Army Corps, so they need federal and state permits still. What I was told by DEP was, they do not recommend that we issue any amended order for anything on that project due to the fact that it could be changing. So that's why at that meeting, I was adamant that we not do it then. So we're still at the same crossroads with this project. Now they're trying to push us to do
Their
it.
lawyer says, by this correspondence, we are making a formal request for an amendment of the order of conditions. See attached correspondence of Green Seal Environmental LLC, it's there somewhere,
Yeah.
which provides a narrative description of what changes have been proposed and the pertinent plans showing the changes. The Conservation Commission shall hold a public hearing on the proposed amendment within 21 days after receiving this request.
Okay, then they need to notify the abutters, and that's the proper way to do it. In order for us, just like we did with Clearway.
Oh, we can notify abutters.
No, they
I
can.
mean, they have to.
Yeah.
We can advertise the hearing.
We can advertise a hearing if they're gonna notify the abutters. Yeah,
Okay, lastly.
all right.
So we're not taking any action tonight.
No, we don't need to
No,
take
we
any
don't
action.
Broad Cove
Oh, yeah.
invoice.
No, yeah, so, had a conversation with Mr. Mullen today because, we've received the invoice again from Ecosystems for the Broad Cove Nature Trail. And, the commission it seems like the commission should be caught up to speed on this project as far as the project scope, the fee, everything involved with it. So, what Mike suggested we do was to invite, Niche and Ecosystems to the meeting.
But we don't even know if he has an engineer.
Yeah,
At the last hearing, he was not
The
saying
engineer
that he have an
didn't send a
engineering.
bill, or he hadn't come, we don't know anything about it. But he did this on his own, he didn't do it through the commission.
I know, I'm in a
He's responsible personally for this.
Well, the bill is to the Conservation Commission.
I don't care who the bill's to.
We didn't vote to approve anything.
Right.
He's talked about a boardwalk through there for a couple of years.
Right.
And apparently this is his dream. But we've never approved anything. We've never had an official meeting talking about
Right, so that needs to happen with Bill.
it. So we're not implicated. Period.
We can ask Bill to invite the engineer and the wetland scientist to a meeting.
Why?
Because they're billing us.
I don't care if they're billing us, we can say,
Well-
the Conservation
We
Commission.
never ordered it, so we don't have
The
to pay for it.
Conservation Commission has never voted to
We didn't
to
know
hire
it was
you.
being done.
What?
We had no idea it was being done until we.
I understand that, and that's what I explained to Mr. Mullen. So Mr. Mullen at first said we should take a vote, to stop all the work.
No, we didn't start any work.
But here's the thing, we're still gonna be incurring more bills. Because
No, we're not.
Bill is the chairman who ordered the work.
He's responsible for the work.
He ordered it, he's responsible. We never approved it, we never voted on it, we never talked about it.
We didn't know anything about it.
I think
Okay.
this is crazy. This is just crazy to me.
The commission has, the commission at large knew nothing of this project and never voted on this project. All bills should be forwarded to the person who hired you.
All this I wanna say is now that the delineation is done, it sounds like the survey work, the engineering work is going to be coming right afterwards. So, it could
He's not
snowball.
here, we shouldn't take any action.
No,
No.
no, but all as I'm
We
suggesting,
can talk about it. I'm not in favor of paying the bill.
I'm not either.
no, and Mike.
We didn't know anything about it.
Mike Mullen just thought it would be good if we could, when Bill is here at another meeting,
The 2nd, September 2nd.
okay. Invite, and ask him to speak about it, put that on the agenda.
He's the one that needs to contact Brendan Fenner. He's the one that needs to explain.
Oh, why didn't we
exactly-
talk
and that's
about
what we've
Brandon
done.
today? Why didn't we tell him today?
Too much going on,
Wasn't Brandon here?
yeah,
Oh, Brendan's gone. That's a different story.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, just email away. That's as far as he is. How about a motion for adjournment?
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 10:25.
All in favor?
Aye.
Look at this, past his bedtime.